Number 7 on our agenda is approval of a small redevelopment grant application for 213 South Central Avenue. So if Karen, if you talk a little bit about that grant as well?
This property is directly across the street where the Back to Even Cafe is, the barber shop. They've also got short-term rentals, apartments in the back and that kind of thing. It's owned by Sasha Industrial Park Properties, but Chef Maria is actually the one that manages the property. So the application is from the owner, but she's the one that's put this whole thing together. I will say that she had this huge board that she was going to bring, where she had pictures posted and all this kind of stuff. Did you bring it? If you want to look at it, but I went ahead and put together what she had into the packet for ease of, you know. So basically what they're doing is, let me get my summary. All right, so she is wanting to go ahead and put pavers, permeable pavers, you know, on the existing parking spaces. There's 7 spots and 2 handicap. She wants to tear down the slope going up to the left and right and replace to match the decking. The way that the slope goes, she wants to build it back up. That will help a lot with the erosion from rain, water, and that kind of thing. She's going to be doing some repainting, but I did not put that in the application because we only pay for paint. And it would have not changed the fact that the whole application is above the $5,000. So why even try to go into it? You know what I'm saying? She wants to add awnings on each window around the building. She wants to add a barrier of some kind on the left side wall for the outside. Of course, clear out all existing grass, weeds, plants, and replace it with colored gravel, blue for ocean. Add large rocks around to protect from the first parking space and to beautify. And also add tables and chairs for seating. On the right side of the barrier of some sort with a planter in the middle, also planters on each end, so she's going to do some landscaping as well. Add decking outside for seating purposes. Now, let me back up for a minute. If you see the way that the ramp is over there, how you get up there, you go this way, and then this way. She's going to tear that whole thing down and rebuild it. Make it easier for especially those disabled that need to use the ramp to go just one way and then either left or right. So that's another thing. She wants to enclose the trash can area, you know, to decorate it. There's she wanted to add heaters, but we don't pay for that, so I've taken that out. She wants to add lighting to surround the outside parking lots. Update painting, paint that. Okay, and in the back where they have the apartments, she wants to add a patio up back there for seating and lights and beautification with plantings and that kind of thing. It's really cute back there. I don't know if you've ever been back there, but it's really neat. And also put more planters to beautify the resort area. So basically, all of this work is going to run about $25,262.25, of which we only pay $5,000. So I'm recommending that we provide them with the grant of $5,000. That's going to change that whole corner.
Thank you, Karen. Questions?
Yeah, what you just said about what to do in the back by the apartments, does that take away from the parking back there?
No.
Oh, okay. And Maria, I guess you have, the barber shop is good with You'd have to come up and.
Maria, do you want to come up to the podium? That's fine. Maria, do
Just
me a
go to
favor.
the microphone, Maria.
Maria, state your name and address, please, for the
I
record.
am Maria Serrano, and I am at 210 South Central.
Thank you.
Okay. So what do I share?
Unless you want me to keep it.
All right, so this is
late.
Jamie over here, my beautiful friend over here. She helped me out with all this. I couldn't have done this without her. I'm a chef, so I'm always cooking. What was the question? I'm sorry.
If the barber shop and
Okay.
was okay with-
We are tenants. The barbershop is not the owner. They're
Right.
tenants. So we're all happy with it. We want to start from scratch. We've been wanting to do this for so long. And so I'm looking forward to start little by little and work out, what needs to be done and make it safe for the, elderly and the handicapped and anybody that goes through there. We want to change it to pavers because those rocks are very bad. They just roll down in the sidewalk. So we want to put the barriers, to protect that from happening. And then we do have a sitting area, but it needs like awnings over it, protect people from, and I feel the same way like the anchor. We use so many umbrellas and they fly and they hit next door. They end up in the streets, and that's something we can't control. Even if we have it locked down or anything, is still. So we want to do some awning and put some lights out there, make it more comfortable, and a lot of plants. Like it's back to Eden, and we want to make it like a Garden of Eden. We want to be able to put all these beautiful plants, not hanging planters, they're going to be from the ground. So we're going to need permission for that.
Thank you.
I had a couple questions. Not for you, Karen. This is more about the process. So when you get into these more extensive plans, is this a reimbursable grant, or what's the checks and balances like? There's always a risk of if you're fronting the money and the work doesn't get complete, how are we going about that process?
No, until the project is finalized, they don't get reimbursed.
Okay, so it is
And
a
if-
reimbursable grant
Yes,
then? Okay.
it's a reimbursable thing. And if they require building permits and that kind of thing, once they're finalized, then I can go ahead and reimburse them.
Okay, that was the only question I had.
Any other questions? Okay. I'd like to open it up to the public. Does anybody have any questions? Seeing no questions, I'll bring it back to the dais for a motion.
Just for clarification too, for the public, if this project is over 25,000 and we're going to reimburse 5, it could be for any part of the project. It's not that the 5 goes to the pavers or the 5
No,
goes to
exactly.
Okay. And having asked that question, I would say I move approval of the small redevelopment grant for 202 South 3rd Street.
Second.
What's the address?
213
The
South
property
Central.
appraiser has it at a different address. It's 202 3rd Street.
Oh, because on here it says 213 South Central.
I know.
I'm reading that and I heard her say
Yeah.
that. That's why I-
Property appraiser's got it with a different address, so there's 3 addresses for that.
So Commissioner Mealy was correct in her.
Well, I was reading off this, which says
Right.
202 South 3rd Street,
And that says,
and here it's either one.
either one.
And
Item seven.
Commissioner Sherman, you were the second on
Yes.
that? Okay. Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Commissioner Mealy,
Yes.
Commissioner Cooley,
Yes, the motion.
Vice Chair Phillips.
Yes. Motion approves. Congratulations. Next, we've got approval of a small redevelopment grant application for 111 North 2nd Street. So Karen, if I could please ask you to talk a little bit about that grant
I don't see
application.
Jonathan in the audience. Oh, God, I didn't see you there. I'm sorry. Okay, the owner's here. What he's proposing to do is replace the old doors and windows on this property, and at the same time, He is going to also improve the facade. And I asked him to bring a sample to show you of what those, the siding looks like. So if you don't mind, let him.
No, come on up. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Jonathan Brewer, 1440 South Ocean Shore Boulevard. So I found this Ipe at Gleeman and Sons in Sanford. It's like a reclaimed lumber yard. So I already bought it. It's about half a pallet. It was just the right amount for the facade is actually just the area under the windows. They're coquina columns. I don't know if you have a photo there.
Yes, we
coquina
do.
columns. So these planks will go. You guys can see it. It's just a nice heavy piece of wood. They'll go horizontally below the windows. Right now it's like stucco, and they dragged a line in the stucco to make it look like what? I don't know, but doesn't look that great. So this is nice heavy stuff. It's never going to rot. My backup plan was to restucco it or maybe cedar shingles, but this stuff is going to last longer, I think. So, and the windows, I was going to do Marvin windows, impact rated. I won't ever have to deal with them again. And the doors were going to be these mahogany, like African mahogany doors, very similar to this, which I also won't have to fool with much more. So trying to have some somewhat permanent, but also fairly natural solutions. I didn't want to go with hardy board or something like that.
Okay, thank you. And just for the public, this is a duplex, which is a half
is.
block from the beach,
Yep.
not a restaurant or a...
Nope, it's just a residential duplex.
And in your packet, you have the drawing. That's where the planks are going.
It's going to look really nice.
Thanks. I think it will.
The total cost is $11,262, and he's applied for the $5,000. So, and I'm recommending y'all approve it.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else from the public like to speak? Come on up.
Good evening, Michelle Rapose, 602 South Central Avenue, Flagler Beach. As a homeowner and as a resident in the CRA area, I am absolutely delighted that we have a CRA director back and that we have this grant program going. And I fully support the grants we have tonight. Delighted to see the ingenuity, the creativity, and the enthusiasm that's coming forth. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public like to speak? Okay, I will bring it back for any other further comments or a motion.
Just one question. The siding that you're doing, that's designed to match your replacement doors. Is that how that's going to work? They're going to be in the same color scheme? You'll have to come up to the mic.
Jonathan, if you could please come back up.
The siding will sort of gray like teak does. So it'll look like like old teak furniture. It won't be golden brown like this forever, but the doors would be varnished, so they would stay closer to this color. But they're in the same family of woods.
Okay, that was the only question I had. All right, thank you.
Thank you. If I could have a motion, please.
Making a motion to approve redevelopment grant application for 111 North 2nd Street.
Second.
Commissioner Mealy?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooley?
Yes, the motion.
Commissioner Sherman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Phillips?
Yes. Motion passes. Congratulations. Okay, number 9 on our agenda is discussion related to CRA board meetings schedule. Ms. Karen?
Thank you. The CRA is only required by statute to meet quarterly. However, I can only speak how we did it before, and what I'm seeing happening, we're probably going to have more meetings because of these grants and because of everything that's happening now that hasn't happened over the years. So I wanted to get feedback from y'all as to how you felt about that. I mean, we still have to meet quarterly regardless, but, you know, the advantage of doing it before a commission meeting, you know, it's working out better than having meetings separate days. So I'm looking for your direction.
Commissioner Mealy?
Yeah, I would just say, obviously, we leave the quarterly meetings, and whenever you feel that you need us to approve or discuss an issue, tell us. And I appreciate them being right before a commission meeting.
Agreed.
That's my only feedback. No standalone meetings.
Well, that's what I thought.
Aaron and I have talked, and we were going to work together to line things up. So, you know, because there's sometimes that the commission wants special workshops. So we would have to coordinate, you know, the schedule and we'll work through those issues.
I appreciate that. I just wanted to make something clear for the public. We just launched this grant program for this particular fiscal year. So I've got 3 of them already sitting on my desk to come back to you in September. Our fiscal year ends in September and begins October 1. October 1 will be the new fiscal year and the new grant cycle for the entire year. And the way that the grant works, it works, you guys award these grants quarterly. So those quarterly meetings is when these grants will be coming before you. But if we need to discuss other things, you know, yeah, I appreciate y'all allowing me to call a special meeting if we need to.
So we can't approve the grants as they come into you. Like you said, you have some.
The program, it states it's
It
once a
has to
year,
be.
starts in October of every year, and it's quarterly. That's how we've done it.
Okay. And if there's money left over from this year?
It goes back into the CRA account
Okay, and
under fund balance.
can we allocate it to grants for next year, or?
That's entirely up to you during the budgeting process, yes.
Okay.
Because the monies from the CRA can be brought forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, does anybody have any questions from the general public regarding our CRA board meeting schedule? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, I've got direction.
And then our last item on the agenda for CRA is CRA director updates. So,
The only one I had was on the lighting, to let you know that it was coming sooner. There's a few things that are ongoing. I was made aware today that the landscaping going down South 2nd Street needed attention, so I went ahead and made sure that that's taken care of. I mean, like I said, the enthusiasm for this grant is great, and I'm hoping that we can develop the large one next year, which was $10,000 for any upgrades of $75,000 or over. So hopefully we'll have 2 grants next year and keep going.
Yeah, and for the people who are relatively new to the community, the ones that I can remember that were the big ones were Finn's and the Dollar General Shopping Center.
The
And was it
Golden Lion, the
Golden
Tiki
Lion?
Bar, and all of their downstairs
Yeah.
patio. That was another one.
Yeah, and great improvements from those, yeah.
awesome.
And that's it, unless y'all
Okay.
have questions for me.
Any questions? Go ahead.
I just had one. So is it on your radar at all, and I don't know where it would even fit, on potential CRA reinvestment of First Friday with things like enhancements or, you know, additional equipments or anything, just to, you know, I don't have anything in mind. I just know that coming down the line, you know, the tent's getting beat up, and, you know, there's been requests from, you know, restaurateurs to try to see on possibilities of them being able to function, or just, you know, anything that would be a First Friday enhancement. Is that on the
Well,
radar?
It's in the budget that we're actually going to be paying for part of all the First Friday activities, including the band. As far as the tent is concerned, if the tent it's into disrepair, I'm gonna have to buy another one. That's just part of, doing business, and we've got it in the budget. The other thing that I'm looking into is probably maybe some more bike racks. I found a company that does bike racks, and they actually have them be decorative. They're not just to use. Some of them have frogs on them and
I've
flowers.
seen them other places.
And I really was intrigued about it. You know what I mean? So I'm looking into things like that. The trash cans that were mentioned, those are all things that I'm looking into. And when I do get pricing and I see if the budget can cover it, then I'm bringing it to you for approval, because I won't spend it without the CRA board approving it. But so if you have any ideas, just let me know and I'll look into it.
Okay. The only other question I had is how feasible is it to do a realignment where we include the pier area in the CRA? Because oddly enough, it's not, and it really should be.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not easy, and the reason for CRAs is to eliminate slum and blight. And to be honest with you, I don't think it's going to fly, but Drew?
That is your threshold, is it has to be a blighted area, and I don't think you get there in the pier area. And if you did, then you're go back and amending your plan, which is an ordeal. And it's a process, and then for the amount of time, I don't know that you'd even see a benefit, because remember, it's all about the TIF revenue, and it takes time to get there. And the amount of time you have left in your CRA, I don't know.
We're exempt, so that there is no TIF. There's no TIF revenue at all coming in. And I think that's why when they did the original master plan and the CRA area, that's why they excluded it, because it's not going to bring any type of taxing or benefit.
Makes sense.
Any other questions or comments?
Just one other quick comment. Karen, I really appreciate her coming in. She's working real hard, and we've been collaborating on the budget. So a lot of these things will be grouped and discussed, and we'll be bringing ideas forward to improve the area, the investments. We're looking at street furniture and other kinds of improvements. So
That's in the budget as well, yeah.
So as these things come forward and we're ready, as the staff has it, hopefully figured out and, ready to present to you, we'll be talking to you about it.
I'm excited.
Karen, we are thrilled you're here. Thank you very much. So, could I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, our next meeting will start at 5:30. know. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for being here. This is the regular meeting of the Flagler Beach City Commission, Thursday, August 18, 2022, at approximately 5:33, and we will be here until all items are complete. I do have a few housekeeping and decorum items. If I could ask everyone to please silence your cell phones. Please do not interrupt or disturb the proceedings of this meeting by clapping or yelling out. You will have your time during public comments to speak. I also want to make it known that Chair Bryan is not in attendance, but I believe that he is watching this meeting. And during item number 15, is that correct, Mr. Whitson? He will be in attendance via the phone. So if I could please have Laura Hackett yet again lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence to honor our veterans, members of the armed forces, and first responders.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Laura. Mayor, do we have any proclamations or awards tonight?
No, we do not.
Okay. We have some changes and deletions to the agenda. I'll walk them through, and then we'll see if any other commissioners have anything that I might have missed. We are actually removing number 11, 13, and 14 for a future date. And then we'll be moving item number 17 to number 5.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I just would like to inform, in case anybody's here, we're pulling 13 and 14 and pushing it to September 8th because I failed to email the applicants and let them know to come and speak tonight. So it's my fault, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Okay, so do we have any other deletions or changes to the agenda?
Excuse me, I have a quick question. I was trying to get an item added to the agenda.
You're out of order.
Yeah, you're
out of order.
You're out of order. You can
Sit down.
speak during public comments, Mr. Strite.
Well, this is in reference to your issue.
You're out of order.
Out of order.
I would like to have my issue put in, being you're taking items out.
No.
Why?
This is the opportunity for the commission to decide if there are any items that come in or out. You have the
Well,
public.
that's why I'm asking, is there one that can come in because it's time sensitive, and now you have room to put it in?
Sensitive.
You bring it up in the public comment.
Okay.
And if they'd like to address it, then they can address it.
Gotcha.
then.
Thank you.
Okay.
Question for the chair. So you said 17's getting moved to 5?
Correct. So Mr. Hadid is going to speak first, and then Mr. Whitson is going to introduce Jason from the Army Corps of Engineers and others.
That's an action item. Is it okay to put that there?
It's not
It's
an
not
action
an action
item, it's a report.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, next we've got intergovernmental updates, number 5. Mr. El Hadid, if I could ask you to come up to the podium, please.
Hello, it's good to see you all. Thank you very much. An opportunity to update this project. You know how very important it is. We have been working diligently, and the we includes all of our partners, including the City of Flagler Beach, the Army Corps of Engineers, DEP, all the agencies that have been contributing to our efforts, by the way, including the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management out of NOAA that is providing our offshore sand. Okay, so you know, I've been here many times talking in great depth about the progress we're making, dealing with individual owners, and I know you all are aware that we're down to a single owner. And now we're in a process under the Florida statutes and procedures that do not permit me to talk about the specifics of that particular matter. But I can tell you this. I can tell you that we are proceeding to take all the steps we need to take in conjunction with all of our partners to procure those easements by the project deadline date, which is the end of this calendar year, December 31, 2022. I think December 31 actually falls on a weekend, so it's December 30. Okay, so there are a couple of things that I can tell you about that don't cross those lines that I'd mentioned about, pending legal matter. Most recently, the Army Corps of Engineers allowed us to revise the language of the Army Corps easement form, the standard form for this particular situation that we have with this owner. And I want to explain that a little bit to give it context. It's a very significant milestone, so that's why it's the first thing I'm describing tonight. As some of you may recall from my prior briefings, there was a case decision that came down, an appellate court decision that came down involving Brevard County in 2020 after we commenced our project. And they had a project just like ours. They had the same formula easement language, the same that is used by the Corps for all of these kinds of projects. And the appellate court, in a very precedential decision, decided that it was invalid insofar as its reference to the public beach. There's a reference to, I don't know whether you plotted through that language, there's a lot of language, there's a lot of legalese in it, easement kind of language, and it made reference in two places about public access, public beach. And so the argument was made that what this language resulted in legally was that Brevard County was taking away the landowner's right. They're asking only for an easement like we are, the right to repair. The right to repair, that's all they're asking for. That what this would do is take away their right to exclude the public, the private individual from their property. That they were giving up their rights to control their property because it was making it a, quote, public beach for anyone and everyone. And the appellate court said, no, that is not valid because under eminent domain principles, and Florida is a very pro-private property state as compared to other states, you can only take, the government can only take that amount of interest in the property. And you've heard about the bundle of sticks for a property. When you own a property, you can do all kinds of things with it. And so the case law is you could only take, absolutely, the government, what you need to accomplish your project. So in other words, let's say we didn't decide this, but let's say hypothetically, you know what, and it was uttered by some people, none of you, why mess with getting an easement? Let's just get their property. Let's just take their whole property. I know you've heard that at a time or two. Well, that would not have been legal because we would not have to own the entirety of their property in order to do the repair. All we needed was the right of access to their property to install the sand, install the vegetation, monitor it, come back, repair it when there's a major storm, when there's a declared storm, or in a periodic renourishment, which, as you know, is scheduled in our program to occur about once every 11 years. So all we needed was the ability to access the property. We didn't need to take any other right. So, however, the appellate decision is the law. I mean, it doesn't matter what I think. I've got to bow to that principle, and obviously I'm willing to do that. And some of you may remember that one of the things I did as a response to that opinion, because I was very concerned this was going to torpedo our case, I had the Board of County Commissioners adopt a resolution. I don't know if you remember it. It was a resolution regarding assurances to owners, and it included things like, okay, we're not going to block your view. We're going to perform the project in a way where we're not going to plant vegetation. For instance, we said we wouldn't plant sea grapes, which have a tendency to acquire a lot of height and a lot of density and view blocking characteristics. We also said we wouldn't plant palmetto, which is not as much of a view blocker as, say, sea grape, but nevertheless does have that quality. Also, cabbage palm. So we narrowed down the plants that we were going to have to low growing. I know you're aware of that. And so this was something we put in the assurances, a promise to everybody, adopted by the government of Flagler County, that we would not impair the view. Well, we also promised that we were not going to take any interest in your property beyond that we needed to physically access your property in order to undertake these activities. That is, we were not taking away the ability of that private owner to stop somebody, say somebody pulls up on the right-of-way, parks on the right-of-way, wants to walk over their dune down to the beach. We know that happens, right? It's not lawful, but it does happen. So they want to be able to say, hey, you're trespassing, get off of there. And that is their right. And we made clear that that was going to continue to be their right, that we were limiting the words of the easement, public access, we limited it to customary use. I think you all know, you remember that, customary use of the beaches. This was something brought about in 2018. And we have, the city of Flagler Beach, Flagler County, not all counties, we have followed the procedure under state law to have customary public use codified. It's in our code of ordinances. And what it does, just as a short summary, it allows the public to move up and down the beach, north and south along the beach, and at the toe of the dune, that's where the dune, flattens out. They call that the towel space. Some people call that. It allows the public to, set up tents, engage in the normal, customary activities that they perform at the beach. So we had that codified. That was the law. And we said in our resolution, and that's what is meant by public beach in the Army Corps easement. Now, this was an exhibit because the resolution was an exhibit. And I'm sorry to do these images here, but I don't know how else to do it. So here's the piece of paper that is the Army Corps easement, right? This is the official document that they want us to use and that the person has to sign. And what we were doing was we slapped that resolution as an exhibit. So this was our legal workaround, all right? The argument was made, the argument was made in terms of our position. Well, this is, you're attempting to do indirectly what you're prohibited from doing directly. So in other words, it was not an authorized change made by the Army Corps. Now, the Army Corps did not object because I told them, look, the project is dead. If we do nothing, that's it, we're dead. We can't, there's no point in getting any easements because the court is saying they're invalid in the way they're written. So they allowed me to use this resolution. It was the one thing I could think of, but now we're in a real serious stage, and frankly, I don't want to have to face that argument. I'm sure you understand. We want to eliminate all the distracting arguments that would keep us from procuring the final properties of the one owner who has not cooperated to date. So the Army Corps agreed to modify the language of the easement. The exhibit's still there. I can still use the exhibit, but on the cover of that easement is the language that we need that provides the same clarification that I just earlier described. So it is now expressed, and they just did that. So that is a huge milestone and advantage to us, and I very much appreciate the willingness of the Army Corps. This had to go through a lot of levels. There are legal folks, et cetera, other folks, I'm sure, that they would permit us to do that. So that's a big step. The other thing I want to tell you, which is also important, it has legal significance, but it has more programmatic significance. And that is something you all recognize. We've experienced a lot of erosion. It's not just this erosion that occurred in August or July or recently. We have been experiencing erosion from quite a bit of time, a lot of sand loss. And I don't know if you recall, but, well, I'm sure you recall, that one of the things we did in establishing the parameters of the project was to get the United States Department of Interior through NOAA, through what's called the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, BOEM. That's the governmental entity that provides all the access to the offshore resources of the United States beyond the state's territorial limit into the territorial waters of the United States. And so we were able to go through a process, thanks to the Army Corps, of identifying a sand site, as I know you all know, and you know how excited we were about it because it had some very positive attributes. There was no rubble that was found in it. If you've ever been to a renourished area where they were pumping offshore sand that had rubble, you know what problems that causes, and it was free of organics, and you know that what problems that causes. That's stink. When the organics are exposed to the sun and the air, that's when they rot, and they let off a very bad odor. So we found not just the quality of the offshore sand, but also the volume. The volume, as you know, is enough for our 50-year program. In other words, build and repair after an emergency and renourish. So it's a very significant volume. Now, we don't get to ask for an unlimited volume. It's a lease. We have a lease. And so it established a certain amount, and we did what's called, well, we didn't do it. The Army Corps did a beach profile, and that means going out there with surveyors and looking at the profile of the beach. Here's the water, and calculating how much sand has been lost, and applying those techniques. I'm simplifying. I'm sure the engineers in the room are going, what? Anyway, so we're now, they've approved, and now the paperwork is being processed, going to be presented to the Board of County Commissioners very soon. We're going to be getting a lease amendment that will take us to 1,330,000 cubic yards of sand that we'll be able to take from that offshore resource. So that's a very significant thing. That'll be coming up on the County Commission's agenda. They're doing all the formalizing of the document in order to do that. Okay, so I told you programmatically that's important, so I know you appreciate that. I said it has a little bit of legal significance, and the legal significance is that if we're forced to, pursue highly contested proceedings and it's a knockdown, drag out, one of the things we've got to do, we have to show that our project is feasible. If we had and by the way, that was a doubling, that was more than 100%, more than 100% or about 100% increase in our previous lease. So right away, the other side, if there is another side, antagonistic side, say, look, you only have half the sand you need. Your project is not feasible. So that is a very good development in terms of our efforts. Let me say, so that's my report of all the things I think I need to apprise you of, but I do want to add this comment, and I've said it before. There's been a tremendous effort that has been expended by individuals of all ilks, of all sizes and shapes, in the way that they are contributing to this project moving forward. All the governmental entities, the people that work for these governmental entities, they are absolutely incredible. They are a pleasure to work with. They're substantive, they care, they're public interest motivated. I don't want you to have any doubts about their commitment to seeing this project come forward and be successful. Thank you.
Before I open it up to other commissioners, Al, I just have a quick question. Do we know the timing of this dune restoration project? People are throwing like June of next year.
Yeah,
plans going?
Yes, actually, Jason Hara is here, and he's got it in his PowerPoint, but just the 30,000-foot level on that schedule. We're to complete our land certification by the end of December, and then February, they'll have finished up all of their design specs. They'll be able to identify the quantities that they need for bidding. They'll put it out for bid. They expect to have contract in April, late April, with the project actually, with a vendor, and the activity commencing in June of 2023.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions of Al? No?
Made everything very clear.
Okay, Mayor, you're good? Okay, thank you, Al.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Mr. Whitson, would you like to introduce Jason from the Army Corps of Engineers? And
Absolutely. Just a couple of quick comments. Since we met last and since the workshop that came up with the county on Monday, we've all been talking to each other quite a bit. The team is working well, and I'm pleased that Jason O'Hara with the Army Corps of Engineers is here. He's going to walk you through a presentation. The rest of the team with the county is here. I'm glad to see Commissioner Sullivan is here as well. Faith is here, the county engineer, and we also have Florida Department of Transportation back there. Thank you very much. And we've all been collaborating, working hard, and we are committed to getting this done. And I think that you'll enjoy Jason's presentation and certainly open it up to any questions. And, from our point of view, we are ready and excited to work with this team, and we're continuing the discussion about what's the right thing to do for our beach.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Thanks for the opportunity to come and speak to you today. My name is Jason Hara. I'm a project manager in the Corps of Engineers, our Jacksonville office. I'm located in downtown Jacksonville. I've had this project for several years now. I'm excited to see it finally getting close to the finish line. Eagerly holding my breath that we'll get there, but I think we're definitely closer than we have been in years past. And clicker does not work. So you'll have to click, you can click for me. Just say, I'll say next slide. Does that work? All right. So moving on to the project history, I just wanted to give the commissioners that may not be very familiar with this project just a quick history of where we were and where we're at now. Starting on the left of the arrow, in 2002, the Corps of Engineers received a resolution to start a shoreline erosion study for the entire Flagler Beach coastline. So this study was for the entire coastline, St. John's down to Volusia, and ultimately that study got completed in 2014. So 12 years, of which several of those years we experienced a lapse in federal funding or federal appropriations. So the county actually picked up and moved forward and accelerated some even of the federal money to get the study completed. But we started in 2002. In 2014, we commemorated the completion of the report by signing of a chief's report. That's a 3-star general in Washington that signs the report and sends it to Congress for what the Corps recommended to be a federal interest and to move forward with construction. Painters Hill, Beverly Beach, a lot of areas fell out for several reasons. Some of those areas at that time had lack of parking and access. For a Corps project, you have to have parking and access every half mile. And the reason that is, if a guy from Kansas wants to come to the beach, drive up here and use federal tax dollars on the beach, he should be able to park, grab his chair, walk to the beach every half mile. So that's Corps policy for a federal beach project. So a lot of those areas were screened out for that or lack of damages at the time. And then in 2014, 2.6 miles was what was authorized from 6th Street down to 28th Street in Flagler Beach. That was the authorization. Down at the bottom in tan, you can see, I want to walk you through the cubic yards of sand that we're talking about here. So 330,000 cubic yards is what was authorized. That was based on design surveys in 2014. That's all the sand we needed to fill the design template that I'll show you in a minute. So 2014, we waited for an authorization to go to construction. So once you complete a report, Congress has to give you an authorization in what we call a water resource bill to go to construction. That took until 2016 when we were authorized in the Water Resource Development Act in 2016. So 2014 to 2016, we wait. We know what happens in 2016. We get impacted by Hurricane Matthew. I was down here. I know that Commissioner Mealy was down here as well. I think Senator Nelson, Governor Scott, we were walking up and down A1A. We were talking about the funding's coming immediately for construction. However, that did not happen. We did not get construction money to move forward until 2018. It took 2 more years for federal money to come on board to go to construction after Hurricane Matthew. So in February of 2018, under the Bipartisan Budget Act, the Corps received $17.5 million to move forward with construction. You'll notice that immediately when we got that, one of the first things we wanted to do was update our quantity of sand. If you look down the arrow, you'll see that was 595,000. So we went from 330 to 595 in 2019. The next thing we have to do to go to construction is sign a project partnership agreement with our sponsor, which is Flagler County. That was signed on July 23rd, 2019. And immediately following that, any sponsor that does a core project, they're responsible 100% for all lands, easements, rights-of-way, et cetera, for the project. So immediately following that same day, we notified the county, these are the amount of easements in that 2.6 miles you have to get. Okay, so that was provided through a land certification letter. We started working on that design and we completed our design in March of 2020. That's when we had our initial plans, our specs, and all of our permits to go to construction was completed in March of 2020. The county was still aggressively working to get easements. While they were doing that, we had a few storms. We said, let's go back out and do another survey and check where we're at with quantities. If you look on the tan, you can see at that time we hit 772,000 cubic yards between 2020 and 2022. So moving over to the right, we are still here waiting on the easements. The county has been working aggressively to do that. As I understand, there's 2 easements that remain. And the commitment from the county is to have those in place by the 30th of December, 2022. I will tell you that folks up the line through Washington, D.C. are patiently waiting to see if 30 December happens. There are a lot of coastal programs and projects from here through Boston that did not get money back in 2018 that have plans and specs done that are waiting for this money that would love to have it. So we have been fighting that off. But let's just hope as a group that 30 December, the county is able to complete that and provide that full lands package to the Corps to proceed with the next steps. So the last bullet there, 2023, as Mr. Hadid mentioned, would be the projected construction time in June. If things keep going as they are, we could be at 1.2 million cubic yards with the continued erosion. That is purely speculative. I'll show you more defined quantities in a minute, but ultimately we went from 330,000 cubic yards in 2014 to over 1.2 million cubic yards in 2023. So a drastic difference. Next slide, please. Is it working? Must be me, I guess.
Probably the battery.
Must be my electrifying personality. All right. So the project cliff notes, just real quick, so some of the commissioners are not real familiar with this. Every Corps project has a non-federal sponsor. Flagler County is the non-federal sponsor for the project. They signed up on that agreement to be a cost share partner to do the real estate, et cetera, so they're our sponsor. Right now, we're targeting initial construction in June 2023. We're estimating that will complete in February 2024 for the full 3 miles. Key fact, the project remains authorized for 50 years after you complete initial construction. So once we complete initial construction, all that sand's out, we do a survey, say, Mr. Contractor, you've done good. The 50-year clock starts through 2074. So that's full 50 years that the government is on the hook to renourish the beach. The renourishment interval, based on our modeling, is every 11 years. So we do initial construction completion in 34, and then we come back in 35, 46, 57, 68. I'm sure we'll all still be here And so in 2068, what happens is we have to do another study to get another 50-year authorization. Okay, so that's what would happen in that time frame. The project cost share, initial construction is 65% federal, 35% non-federal. That is a great cost share rate, and the reason that is so good is because we do have adequate parking and access every half mile through Flagler Beach. A lot of counties, your county to the north, St. John's and Milano, they don't have that. So their cost share is actually around 25% federal, 75% non-federal. It's that much lopsided if you don't have that parking and access. With renourishments, our policy by law is that goes then to 50-50 instead of 65-35. This is one of the next bullet is the reason a lot of folks get on with the Corps for the beach program. We have about 23 coastal projects in the state of Florida, Miami, Tampa, Martin County, Nassau County. The majority of the beaches that you put a chair in are man-made. Some of those beaches are renourished every 5 to 7 years. You get down to Miami, they're done every year. So that sand is either coming from upland or it's coming from offshore. But the majority of those beaches are renourished throughout the state of Florida in a given time span. So one of the benefits for the Corps project is in the event in the future, we have a Hurricane Matthew, et cetera, the Corps under the Stafford Act comes back and renourishes that beach at 100% federal, okay? And one of the reasons we require perpetual easements, a lot of folks want to know what is behind that. In the event we have a Matthew and people have been displaced, they're out in the middle of the Midwest or whatever, we don't have to go back and try to get easements from 200 or 300 homeowners. We can turn around in a month or two, put out a set of emergency plans and have a contractor sitting on your ocean side pumping sand. So that's why they're perpetual, so we don't have to try to find people after an emergency disaster. So that happens for that full 50-year life. Anytime we have a significant storm, as a presidential declaration, we come in at 100% federal and replace that beach. The county is not on the hook for anything. The last bullet, as part of these projects, the county is responsible for operation and maintenance. So they are required to go out, I'm sure in conjunction with the city. When we finish the project, there's signage. If the signs are knocked down, they should be replaced. They should knock down big escarpments or tilling that's required. There's monitoring that's required, check the vegetation. If there's a spot that's dead, it needs to be replaced. There's post and rope marking the dunes. I encourage the city and the county, the minute we finish this project, you will go out there and you'll see people sliding down the side of a dune that's brand new. So a lot of people have policies. I don't know if it may be state law to stay off of dunes, but that is something we all need to enforce to the public. Stay off the dunes, let that vegetation mature so we can protect the upland property.
Would you repeat the post and ropes for the mayor, please?
Yeah. So when we complete the project, I don't know what's behind that. I don't want to know. But when we complete the project, typically we'll have some type of wooden post. I don't know what the rope will be. We have the Buy America Act, so it's been hard to get some of that rope. But there will be post and rope. There'll be gaps at all the walkovers, et cetera. And there will be signs saying stay off dunes. And then we also put a big project sign telling everybody why they should stay off the dunes. It's a really nice environmental metal poster that will be put in the ground somewhere that people can walk up with their kids and understand what's behind the project. So, yes, ma'am.
So the Army Corps of Engineers provides the post and rope?
Yes, ma'am.
And the signage?
We provided initially, but it's up to the city and the county to maintain that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay, this is just a quick project design. One key thing on this project to keep in mind, 96% of the benefits of this project, every Corps project has to have benefits, and those benefits are from protecting upland property from damage. 96% of the benefits for this project is protecting A1A. And what that means is when we put a dune and a berm out there, that dune and berm, we want it to wash away because that dune and berm sacrifices itself to protect A1A, and it keeps the DOT from having to come in and dump rocks or potentially put seawalls or whatever that next mechanism they feel they have to do to protect A1A. So this is a sacrificial feature to wash out to protect A1A. The quick design of the project, you have a dune feature, which is about 19 feet NAVD. So it will be level or below the road, most likely a little bit below the road. It does not go over the road. That dune crest will vary based on the topography of the ground. Some areas where it may be more narrow, the top of that dune will be a little bit wider and a little bit more narrow. The dune will slope down on about a 2.5 to 1 slope, and then we'll come into a berm, which will be about a 40-foot wide berm. That is the towel space, we call it. It's where people are putting their chairs or building a sandcastle, whatever. So that'll be about a 40-foot berm. It'll have a very gradual slope on an 80 to 1, not noticeable, but enough to have a little bit of drainage and to support some of that wave action. And then from there, a lot of people don't understand, our beach profile extends from that berm all the way underneath the ocean. So that berm will extend all the way down to mean high water, about 1.46 feet. Okay, so that is the project area. Over time, that will equilibrate. Obviously, that 2.5 to 1 won't hold. It'll kind of gradually come down. Mother Nature will do her thing. But ultimately, that is the project. And then we come in, once all that dune and the berm is created, then we plant vegetation in accordance with DEP standard. And I'll show you that in just a minute. Next slide, please. So this is actually one of the project posters that will be out during construction, and I will bring you guys a copy of this down on poster board that you can keep in this office. The county will have one in case people will come in and want to see it. I won't go through too much of the features here, but I'll start at the very top in blue. You'll see north construction access, and so that is that access point you have north of the pier. That has been granted to us from the county. That will be the contractor's access point to the north of the project. The area in yellow is where the sand will be placed, but the contractor will be using that blue area to bring in dozers, bring in pipe, etc., and then navigating underneath the pier to get to that yellow tip, which is the northern piece of the project. In our contract plans and specs, the contractor must coordinate with local law enforcement to be escorted on and off of that beach. Obviously, with the traffic on A1A, we don't want them to go out there and just make that access themselves, so they have to be escorted. The red area right between 6th and 7th Street is where the project starts. You'll notice that we never have a project that has a vertical cut or 90-degree cut. They always have a taper, so the sand will taper to eat some of that wave energy. So it'll have a 600-foot taper, angled taper on both ends of that 2.6 miles. The sand will be placed with a hopper dredge, as you see number 1. Basically, that hopper dredge is like a gigantic vacuum cleaner. It goes out in the ocean about 7 miles. It sucks sand up into the belly of the ship. It will come, as you see number 2. It will connect to a pipe that is submerged, and that sand will be pumped underwater through a pipe onto the beach, where bulldozers will push that sand around to meet those templates I just showed you in that cross section. Next slide, please. So that number 3 is the bulldozer showing you the metal pipe as well. They connect that pipe onto the beach to pump the sand around as needed. 28th Street at the bottom of the yellow, that is the end of our project. Again, it has that 600-foot taper on the end. And then at the bottom there, about 0.68 miles away near the water tower, is our other staging and access location. So that will be shut down with fencing. The contractor will use that to get on and off the beach. If they need to build a ramp over the dune down there, they are required to restore that dune, put the vegetation back just like it was before they got there. All right. Next slide, please. One thing I will mention, when the contractor brings his pipe up to the beach, sometimes they have to put Ys on it, just like a plumber would do on both sides to work up the beach. Anywhere there's pipe, every 100 to 200 feet, the contractor will build a sand ramp that allow the public to get over that pipe so they can access, get over the pipe, etc. during that time. All right, walkovers. In the 2.6 miles, there's about 42 public and private walkovers. The contractor obviously doesn't put equipment right up against those. He doesn't want to damage them. So what they'll do, they'll get about 10, 20 feet away, and then they have labor crews that will go in and hand pack that sand underneath the walkover and then on top of it. So a few of the stairs will be buried based on that berm height, but over time, Mother Nature will take that sand away. But ultimately, we don't want to leave any gaps underneath a walkover or anything. When this storm surge comes up, we want a full dune template to prevent any of that water from penetrating the dune feature. The contractor, in the event they do damage that, they are bonded and insured. We've had it happen in the past. Somebody's backed into it. We have field crews on site that will work with that homeowner. The contractor is required to either rebuild that or pay the homeowner through their insurance policy to fix it. It does happen, not very often. Initial construction schedule, Mr. Hadi kind of alluded to that. In red, 30 December is that key action date. That is the closest date we have to get the easements from Flagler County on 30 December. From there, we have from 30 December to 31 January to review those easements, get everything buttoned up on the January the 31st. From there, we have about 20 days of procurement review, and what that is, our Office of Counsel and our contracting officers review everything, make sure all the specs, everything looks good to go, and then we actually hit the street with a contract on 23 February for 30 days until March 23rd. Bid opening is on 23, I lost you there. There you go. Bid opening is on 23 March. That's when we take all the proposals. We will take the lowest bid that's technically acceptable. So on that day, we will know who the apparent low bidder is, which contractor. About 30 days later, we award. During that time frame, we're checking the contractor's bonding, his insurance, making sure everything's in line. So the contract will be awarded on April 24, 2023. From that point, the contractors have about 60 days to mobilize to the site. And that is because they're up in New Jersey putting sand on beaches, or Boston or North Carolina. So there's a lot of coastal projects and very few dredges, believe it or not. So we have to kind of strategically allow them time to get down here. So we give a 60-day window to complete. So at the latest, starting in June 26, 2023, that is the sand being pumped on the beach. February 23rd, 2024 is our projection for them to be complete. During that time, we deal with this all the time. We know there's 4th of July events, there's surfing competitions, etc. I've told Mr. Whitson, when we award this contract, we'll have a meeting with the contractor. We can work through those things, but we just need to make sure we have a clear and concise list of anything coming up so that the contractor can avoid those areas. Project cost over time. I mentioned to you earlier that volume of sand that has increased. So that first column on your left shows you in blue is 2014, in orange is 2019, in gray is 2021, and then in yellow is projected in 2023. So we've went up about 264% in volume from 300,000 to 1.2 million for the project. The next column over is the total estimated construction cost. When the three-star general signed this back in 2014, the projected cost was $14 million. That cost now is at $29.6 million. If we have to put the full 1.2 million yards on the beach, and that is purely speculative. We don't know what that final volume will be. Moving over with that 65-35 split, the federal share was $9 million. Now it's projected to be $19 million, and the non-federal share was projected at $5 million, and that's now $10.4 million. So that's been about a 109% increase in cost over that time frame. Moving to the next slide, community connections. Once we do get under construction, on your right, you see the map. This particular map here will be posted every single week by the contractor. It lays out for that full 2.6 miles in about 1,000 to 5,000 foot segments. He will tell everybody in the public when he projects to be behind everybody's house based on productivity. So you'll be able to look at this map if you live on 10th Street, and it'll say projected time frame February to March to be behind your house. This is updated every week, and those red lines will turn green as sections are completed. So that gets provided every week on our Facebook page, and the city of Flagler Beach and the county can obviously share that to their social media as well, just to let everybody know. Next slide, please. So what to expect during construction. In blue, the contractor will stage equipment, pipe, trucks, etc. on the beach. They will have to play the tide cycles to make sure there's no issues there. Construction will occur 24/7. These dredges are like a gigantic cruise, a Royal Caribbean ship. They get paid to be running and moving and doing stuff. So they want to get in and get out as quickly as they can. There will be noise. There will be backup alarms. There will be lights. We will hear complaints, and we deal with those accordingly. I just ask the public to be cognizant of that. We're doing the best we can, and it's in all of our interest to get them in there and get them out as quick as possible. The sand will be pumped and graded, as I talked about. The contractor does not shut off the entire beach. As I said, they will put orange fencing in about 1,000 to 5,000 foot sections. They will have security guards. Sometimes they hire the local city police to kind of be on the beach monitoring that, to keep people out from surfing, etc. But they will monitor that, and then once that 1,000 to 5,000 foot section is complete, they'll move to another one, then another one, so they leapfrog down the beach. The progress maps will be provided, as I mentioned. There are safety personnel on the beach. And then after the project is complete, there will be escarpments to form. There will be small cliffs, et cetera. Once the contractor is gone, it's the county's responsibility as the non-federal sponsor, knock down the scarps, check the signage, check the rope, and to maintain that project after we've left. The walkovers will become exposed. As I mentioned, they will be buried initially. There are signs that are put out, and then there will be the protection measures, as I talked about, with the walkovers. The last one there, USAID sponsor will monitor the beach frequently. So it's projected to be every 11 years. That doesn't mean it has to be renourished 11 years. If the county, Mr. Witz and others come and say, hey, Jason, we're in year 7, the beach looks really bad, we need you to come and look at it, that is a sliding scale. We can move that to the left, or if the beach is doing really great, we can renourish in year 13 versus year 11. So that can move around. Next slide, please. This is just the key stakeholders, as Mr. Hadid mentioned, and I put a list of everything that they're responsible to provide. Even though we're a federal agency, the Corps has to coordinate with every single group on here, obviously minus Olson. DOT is the huge contributor on the funding on the project, but every one of these groups we have to coordinate with to get permits through the cultural resources or fisheries or turtles or ocean sand. And so these are all groups that will continuously work this project and monitor the project for the remaining 50-year life. So that's all I have, subject to questions.
Excellent presentation, Jason.
Thank you, ma'am.
Excellent. Commissioners, Mayor, any questions that you have to ask Jason?
Yeah, no, I took a lot of notes while you were talking, but could we have copies of that?
Mr. Whitson has it.
Yeah, we got it. We'll distribute it.
Thank you. And that, yes, it was an excellent.
Thank you, ma'am.
Excellent presentation.
All right, thank you.
So, Chairman, just a few comments from the city's perspective, and then I'll introduce the other members of the team. We've had extensive discussions, as I said, and this whole team has been on the phone talking to each other, coordinating with each other. It's just such a huge blessing to see, what is really a massive project effort and has been such a long time being planned. Edgar reminds me to let everybody know for the record that the city is part of the Florida Shore and Beach Preservation Association, which is also part of, the collaborative effort in Florida to re-nourish beaches and keep them maintained. And we're going to be working closely with the county, obviously, the Corps, FDOT, and all the other associated agencies. And we're going to be working closely to make sure that we have contingency plans in place. And I'm going to ask Faith and the FDOT to come forward and kind of speak, from their point of view on how the coordination, the communication has gone this week and how it's going to go forward and what our efforts will be to collaborate together.
Can the public ask questions of the Corps?
No.
Can't ask questions. That's bullshit.
Good evening, Faith Al-Khatib, Flagler County Engineer. As you know, we have been working on this project for at least 15, 17 years. It's a great presentation. It's really great partnership with the Corps of Engineers, but mostly with FDOT. Jason discussed the cost estimate of the project, 17 million. But I have to let you know, 11 million is coming from the Corps of Engineers, and the match, 65%, is coming from FDOT. Without FDOT being a partner with us with this project, we cannot have a long-term plan for the city of Flagler Beach. So I call you the lucky city. Why you are the lucky city? You having almost 5.5 miles of shorelines out of 18 miles of shorelines. And only these 5 miles, we do have a long-term plan for you. Jason, he talked about the Corps of Engineer project, but also we do have another project planned and in the work also. Coordinating with FDOT, we received another $18 million to do another project north of the Corps of Engineer project and south of it. It has been designed and permitted, and also we are waiting on the easements. As I mentioned, All that funding came from FDOT. And to proceed, Jason mentioned the ongoing erosion within our dunes and beaches. Mother Nature, we cannot control it. The quantities has been doubled and maybe will be tripled. Our goal now, as Jason mentioned, our matching fund, 6 million, might be 10 million. FGT, they were really generous, and we always go back and ask them for this additional funding. And that's where we need your help to start lobbying in Tallahassee and everywhere for that additional funding we might need soon. We talked about FGT project. All what I have at this time for construction, $8.5 million. Again, we might value engineering that project. Instead of doing 2.4 miles, we might end up doing a mile and a half. But my goal, and we prefer to do the project how way it has been designed and permitted. So, for your city, Shoreline, you have a long-term plan to get these two projects done. Also, thank you to FDOT. I know it seems like it's FDOT night tonight. They provided the city Flagler Beach at least $500,000 to maintain the dunes and the beaches after we constructed these two projects. With that said, we appreciate you. I'm sorry I don't have a specific presentation to talk about the FGT project within your city limit. And also we have some funding from DEP, $3.7 million to build the dunes within State Park from DEP. So again, you are the lucky city. We have been working with Mr. Whitson for the last 2 weeks. My consultant, myself, my staff, we were out there looking at the erosion problems you do have just north of your pier, which happened recently. My consulting, they did some calculations. It appears since November 21 until now, or I can say until Monday, you did lose within the 1,500 linear foot 12,000 cubic yards to 15,000 cubic yards. To do a trucking operation, it might cost you at least $750,000. At this time, we are recommending to monitor the situation there. We're willing to help you with that. And also we did request FDOT for a safety reason to monitor A1A and make sure it's not going to be impacting the safety of the public and having problem with A1A. And Ron Mead, he's here today to guarantee that for us. He has an emergency plan, and you know what, FDOT, they have all the resources to do whatever we need. Us, I'm sorry, we don't. And you know, the most important thing with the resources, money. That's all about it. With that, I will turn it over to Ron.
No pressure, Ron.
Exactly. Thank
Step
you,
up,
Faith.
Ron.
Faith has asked us to step up a few times.
Yeah.
But, well, thank you for having us. I'm Ron Mead. I'm with the DOT, and I want you to know that A1A is our, that's our road, and it's always going to be there. I mean, I'm tasked with keeping that road going, and that's what we've done. We did that after Matthew. I worked with a lot of y'all on that project, getting it in the temporary fix and then the permanent. So A1A is a top priority, and we'll always be checking it. We have a contractor that's on this road every day, Louis Berger. You've probably seen their vehicles. And we're watching it, we're monitoring it, we're working with William, and we certainly support Jason's and Faith's project, the one that Jason presented on, and then a second project that Faith is working on. And we've committed to those two projects already over $15 million. So we're a big supporter of those projects. We know that reshaping that beach is going to help the road, and I know it's made to get eaten away sacrificially. And I know sometimes that's hard to see, millions of dollars spent on sand and then see it kind of get carried away. But when I heard Jason talk about that 50-year plan, that they're going to come back several times, 4 times, about 11-year interval, that's gives us some confidence. But anyway, we're here and we're going to support William, and we're going to keep an eye on A1A, and A1A is safe. right now. I mean, even with the additional erosion, we're keeping an eye on it. We've got 3 or 4 projects. Well, actually, we've got one project, and we've got several areas. Chris Barone is the new DeLand operations engineer, and as in that position, she's overseeing Volusia and Flagler. So now, if we have a problem with A1A, it's going to be Chris that leads us through this next project. But and of course, I'll be here to help as well. But we have some rock revetment supplements that are coming, and Chris, I think we're going to do that this fiscal year. And we're going to hit several spots where we're just going to replenish those rocks that have sunk or moved away. And, you know, we're allowed to do that per our current permitting guidelines. We can put rock within the envelope of where we've had rock. We can't go any further towards the ocean or anything like that. We just have to stay within that footprint, but we're able to add rock to fortify it, to keep it safe. So we'll continue to do that and to monitor A1A. And with that, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Commissioners, Mayor, any questions of Faith or Ron?
I had a couple. And I'm not sure, Faith or Ron, which one this would apply to. So when the seawall on the north side of town was put in, and that was originally going to be part of the county dune project as well, and it got taken off because the seawall was there. And at the time, when the decision was made, the beach was full, looked good. And since then, you know, a lot of that sand has been lost, but it's still not part of the county project. So the question is, can it be included, or what's FDOT's stance on when that sand goes away? Because your buried seawall is soon to become an exposed seawall.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Shortly after we placed all that sand behind that seawall we built, and it went way out there. We had a storm, I want to say within 6 or 8 weeks after that, and lost maybe half or 2/3 of that sand. And initially, we were still in construction. We still had the ability to place more sand, and we spoke with staff, and we realized that we fulfilled the commitment by placing all that sand, and we had it verified that the sand was placed and it met the conditions, so we did not put any more sand there, and realizing that seawall is protecting the road. But I do support sand, behind it, and if Faith's job could cover it, that's wonderful, to kind of match it to the south and a little bit to the north. Of course, I don't think you're planning on going too much north of that, are you, Faith?
Okay. Well, it depends. If Ron will give me more money, I can do that.
We're working on that.
So we did include the seawall part of the permitting process, and it has been included with the sand quantities. But again, because I'm really limited to the funding I do have within this project, I asked Ron if he wants us to come in and put more sand behind that wall. As long as he provides me some funding, we'll be able to include it part of the project and get it done. So again, it's about the money.
Okay. That's the only question I have.
Right, and initially when we gave that first allocation, I think for your job it was $8.5 million. How far were you going to take that sand initially?
Okay, I don't know how long we're talking about this. Initially, when we received the $18 million, it was for the Corps of Engineer project limit. Then, after 2 years, when the Corps of Engineers, they came back and they say, we do have some funding available now to do the 2.6 miles. We took that funding, the 18 million, use 6 million of the 18 million towards the match for the Corps of Engineer project, 1.8 million for the design phase, and what's left for us, 6.7 million. So when we change all these projects limit and the quantities, again, as I mentioned, we included the retaining wall because we know we will come to a point we need to put more sand there. But again, it's all about the money. So we included in the permitting, but not designed. It's not like something hard to design it right now and get it done. The most critical issue, the design and also having enough sand offshore to do this project and to include the retaining wall.
I remember Chris Creed talking on Monday, and he said there was a way that from where we're getting the sand now, the area could be increased.
In your area, City Flagler Beach limit, you have all the sand you need. For FDOT project, you have enough sand for 15 years. Whenever, how often you come in and do dredging operation there, you have enough sand. The Corps of Engineers for 50 years. He was talking about north of the City Flagler Beach for the 11.4 miles of Flagler County dunes and beaches north of your city.
But if we were, I don't want to get into an argument here, but if we find we need more sand, it would be available out there in that increased area.
If you need more sand for your city, shorelines, you have it out there. It has been included with our agreement with POEM. For your area, you have no concern. So that's why I call you the lucky city.
Thank you, Faith.
Any other questions? Okay.
Well, Madam Chairman, just a few wrap-up comments, if I may. So again, I really have enjoyed the education by immersion this week. And we are working very closely together. We've talked about contingency plans. We've got those in place. We're monitoring. Like I say, Edgar's online listening to this discussion. He'll be following up in the appropriate places to try and help secure funding for all of our partners. And I just want to say what a great blessing it is to be part of this group. We are very fortunate. We are very lucky. And we're going to move forward with contingency plans, monitoring with our fingers crossed, and hope that, we can get to June. And once we get to June, you can see how elaborate the plan is. One last closing comment. On the next agenda on September, I think it's the 8th, we're going to have Chris Barone come and give an update on the project she's working on another portion of this as well with vegetation. So, Chris, if you want to make any comments now, or we'll wait till then, however you want to handle that.
I think we'll be prepared. We'll have a
Come on up.
We'll have a short presentation in a couple of weeks to share with you. And this will be some vegetation that'll be focused in the area of the wall. And that'll be to protect, the dune there.
Yeah. So it's a really exhaustive, comprehensive effort. I can't thank all of our partners enough for listening to the city, our concerns. Yeah, I'd love to come up with 14,000 cubic yards of sand right now. But at the end of the day, it's about the money. So we're going to have to depend on our partners to step forward, and they are prepared. And what they're telling me is they're monitoring. We have Olson available to us. Faith has been great. She's called DEP. We have appointments tentative set up for next week to go out and look at it with them to try to make sure we can shortcut all these things. And if we need to take emergency action, I'm assured that we can do that.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Commissioner Sullivan, for being here as well.
Well, can I ask another quick question?
Sure.
Something came to mind. Mr. Mead, I had a question for you. Recently, earlier this year, all of our portion of A1A has been designated as a Great American Highway. So is there any additional, beyond, with you guys, with that designation, do you know of any other federal funds that might be able to assist with you guys preserving our portion of A1A?
I'm not, but but there's a lot of funding sources at times for different types of designations, and I can check on that, and certainly I can get back with William.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think, actually, Commissioner, that's a great point, and I'll coordinate with Ron, but the county has offered, they have a federal lobbyist, we have a state lobbyist. Perhaps we could collaborate in a way to tie that in to assist you, Ron.
Sure.
And we could have that discussion. I think that's a great point.
All right, thank you.
Got a couple other questions.
You can go first.
All right, so before we move on off of this, the original item 17 had a couple tactical, like, kind of action items here. So the original part was going to be, there was going to be an engineer hired for $15,000. Is that still on the table? Because this was going to be a discussion item only. What are you doing with that?
Basically, I already have up to 20 on my own, so I'm just putting it out there that at this point we're going to delay. We're going to wait. We don't need it. We're going to coordinate through the county. But if we need it, I'm assuming I have consensus to go do what needs to be done and get the right expert involved. That was the whole point to begin with. But I think the wagons have been circled, and I think there's enough communication now that, you know, I feel pretty good about where we are, and we can delay that part. And then if it's needed, then we'll move forward and do it.
And then the other question was, this goes back to the large county presentation that was done on Monday, the 174-pager.
Yes.
One of the action items in there, or recommendations, I should say, was county was going to take over management of the city of Flagler Beach's beach. That obviously there's not a big appetite for it, at least from my vantage point. Is there any action being taken as far as that goes? Faith, did you guys have a stance on it?
Again, Faith Al-Khatib, Flagler County Engineers, we never recommended that. We just presented our beach management study and the action plan. Nothing has been adopted or recommending anything. And as I mentioned to you, the $500,000 available for the city to take care of their beaches and dunes, that will be the perfect solution for you.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was clear, because myself and there was numerous citizens that approached me about that, wondering where that was.
Yeah, I think Faith's right on target. In fact, the whole team has been talking, and in particular, I've appreciated Faith and Al's guidance on this, and Drew and I have been working on the draft MOU. And so the position that we have right now is let's let this process play out. Let's get the plan in place. Let's get the beach renourished. Let's get everything in place. And as you heard from Jason with the Army Corps of Engineers, God forbid, you know, we get a big one or there's a presidential declaration, they'll be there. The MOU would be for the times when we have a nor'easter or something that's a localized event that's not a federal disaster, and then we would work on putting that mechanism in place once everything's set up, and then work through MOU to establish that MOU and the funding associated with it, and then we would be the caretaker in coordination with FDOT, because at the end of the day, it's about protecting their road. And that would be another little layer of insurance that we have for, you know, the unexpected.
And Commissioner, if you have any comments about that report, please let us know, and we'll take a look at it and consider it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I was going to pretty much ask the same questions that Eric just asked, so I won't bother. But you sent us an email today with steps that I was happy with what was written in those steps. You want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yes, ma'am. This was pretty much taken from the county, and they guided me in this. And so the group has talked about it. We're all comfortable with it, and I emailed it out to you all, and that's what I'm talking about. Is that's kind of our marching orders.
Right, but the public doesn't know what's...
Yeah, and I can make that available, but let me just kind of cover it quickly. Is that short-term immediate actions is that we would install physical barriers to direct people away from the dune escarpments, and then minimize damage to the dunes to protect the public from injury, and including public education and outreach to promote compliance with staying off the dunes. And then we'll coordinate with FDOT on fencing and the right-of-way. We will make sure that there is a redirection of people away from the pathway using the beach down at State Road 100. That we will continue the use of South 6th Street ramp for the lifeguard rescue access. That the city will take the lead on providing public education on these protective measures, and that we will continue with our partners to monitor and be ready with these contingency action plans in case, we have more erosion or more cause for concern. And then just wrapping it up, that the city should request that FDOT take the lead in collaborating with the city on any loss of mitigation actions and securing funding as necessary. And again, Ron and I have been talking about working together on all those things. And we're going to continue to rely on the county's structural engineering consultants at this point in time. And then if we need, any additional horsepower or coordination or efforts, then we'll approach it at that time. That's kind of the quick and
Thanks for
dirty
doing that.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else? Go ahead.
Edgar's listening, so Edgar, we're gonna need Edgar's help on the north side. The reason why is, the seawall's there, so there's no threat to the road. Excuse me, but there is a threat to the beach with the erosion, and then when it happens to a certain point, you get that wave action that where it hits the seawall, then it pulls it out even more. The threat is, there just won't be a beach. And that's a large stretch of area that will have a significant impact on tourism and just the county as a whole. So it's very important that, because it is no longer part of the project, it got removed a couple years ago, that we figure something out, because that could be an issue.
Correct, and Edgar and I are, well, he's online listening now. He's texting me. That's why I keep looking at my phone. Yeah, we plan to form up a team and work with our partners and make a good run at it.
Thank you, everyone. Moving on to public comments. Citizens are encouraged to speak. However, your comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Please direct your...
Items not on the agenda.
Not on the agenda. Items not on the agenda. Please direct your questions and comments to myself. If I can't answer them at the end, I will engage others.
431839 Oak Place. My question is with regard to our fire water main. Mr. Whitson, we have not had a fire main on Oak Place ever. So how do you feel that's not a time-sensitive issue that we should have gotten 10 minutes to speak to today? Once again, you're wrong. Just one more in a long list, okay? But what you've done is you've got your engineer still trying to open cut, for the contractor to open cut for our main, when we've taken trips down there time and time again with some of the commissioners here and whatnot, to show you that if you cut through the root structure of the oaks and the palms and everything else on Oak Place, our canopy, which is very much similar to South Flagler, will not be decimated immediately. It will take years. We will not be able to bring it back anytime soon. I've spoken to it. Mr. McKinley, who's not here this evening, has spoken to it. There are other ways to do it that are even more cost effective. The engineer's letter said it's going to be another $36,000 to bore that line. I want to challenge that and say we should be having a credit based on the due diligence that I've done on boring. What's happened here is the engineer has used a boilerplate design, figuring that Oak Place was the same as every other street in Flagler Beach. It is not. We're a one-lane sand road. We have this beautiful canopy that we want to maintain, and that's one of the vision statements you all are supposed to uphold, the environment. That's part of the environment. It's also part of our property value as well, because everybody loves it. They walk their dogs, they bring their kids on bicycles because it's safe down there. The second thing is, if you delete the root structure on half of those trees during a storm, it's going to be that much less likely to stand up. And if it doesn't, I can tell you from living here for 7 years that when we do get hurricane events, those trees being above our homes helps to disturb and mitigate the wind. We don't get the same wind damage as folks do up on Central. So those trees are extremely important to us, and you need to get on board with the boring, and you need to get the proper credit from Klein and get a boring company. I can give you 4 names that'll give you quotes. Not one quote, not one bid, 4. Okay? So let's do it right this time. Let's do right by the residents. Let's do right by the environment, and let's get this right. I started this process about this fire main in 2019 when Fred Griffith was here. It's taken that long. The engineer's letter now says it's an immediate concern. Absolutely it is, because we've never had fire protection on our road. And now it's an immediate concern. It's been an immediate concern since Oak Place existed, and the city has ignored us since it was built.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Strite. Your time is up.
Honored panel members, friends of Flagler Beach. I came here to speak on one subject real quickly, but other things now entered in my mind. 61, 62, 63 has a freedom rider. That's the people who rode the buses in civil rights days before the term civil rights was invented. I was there when Martin Luther gave his Have a Dream speech. 2 men, a regular citizen spoke, 2 men before him, and he gave one sentence. He says, we've got to strategize and get together so we can all have equal civil rights. That's where the term strategize came from, and that's where the term civil rights got their name. Years later, I became a city councilman in Louisville, Kentucky. I was one of these people that followed the events of the world. I was opinionated. And when I became a city councilman, the first week I was a little bit unsure. I never even got to go to high school. I was from the hills of eastern Kentucky. So the first meeting I was quiet. But the second meeting I had an issue. And I spoke firmly, loudly, and too long. And when the meeting was over, one of the senior councilmen came up to me and says, E.T., he said, you gave a good speech tonight, but remember the first person that shouts loses the argument. If you want somebody to listen to you, you talk intelligently and respectfully, and they'll listen better. Now, secondly, I'd like a quick thing. We didn't have a proclamation or award thing tonight. It just came to me when that happened. The people that have gotten one of these awards, and I was privileged to get an award once from you folks, have either worked really hard, spent some of their money, or done something really well for Flagler Beach. And I would like to suggest a little way of saying thank you that would cost you almost nothing. But would be lifetime passes for 2 people. And a little card, like an election card, you can put your billfold, you just show the person to go out on the pier. It's a simple thing, but it's a thank you. And the quick thing that I really came to talk about tonight, we've all seen signs on every lot. No parking. You can be towed by so-and-so's towing service. First Friday, I noticed that there was a lot of people here, and there were places that were closed at night. But they were towing the cars away, bing, 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 just like this, even though we're only there 3 or 4 hours, and these places are closed. I can think of 3, I'm an elder in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I believe you've got to get them in the lot before you get them through the front door. There are 3 churches close by here, including one just 3 blocks down the street with just one little entrance to their parking lot. Church-only parking. It just seemed like overkill. And I'll be real quick. And then I learned, or I was told, I'm not sure, that the towing people, when they tow your vehicles in from one of these places get a $20 kickback. That seems terrible to me. No wonder they want to tow them back to get paid for something for nothing. I know that this extra, the Catholic Church right down the road here has got parking for 500 people. I do a lot of volunteer work there. They're going to let you park there forever and ever for some of these fields. 2 blocks from the thing.
Sir, I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank you, though.
Rick Bellhammer, Flagler Beach. On May 21st, 2018, the property owned by the Hammock Beach River Club, aka Ginn property, was sold to a new owner, Palm Coast Intercoastal LLC, aka The Gardens. This land is currently being developed as Veranda Bay with 335 homes. As a commissioner in my first term, I started the process of making contact with that owner. That led me to Mr. Ken Belchey. I set up a meeting with him and we had a discussion about the possible annexation into the city of Flagler Beach. Soon afterwards, the former city manager, Larry Newsom, and I met with him at City Hall. Mr. Belchey made it known at that time that he would prefer to have a city of Flagler Beach address. At that point, I anticipated future meetings between the city and the developer. I asked Mr. Newsom about how to successfully get the owner to annex. He was quite honest and said he knew nothing about the procedure of annexation. Talks didn't progress well, especially with a rather large group opposing the development, including some of our own commissioners. Now, let's fast forward to last year. We got a new city manager and opposition was pretty much non-existent. Mr. Whitson has led 2 strategic planning sessions, and that's when he learned that annexation had become a very high priority among the commissioners and mayor. While I was still a commissioner, I would frequently ask the city manager about any progress with negotiations, and I typically got a very generic reply saying that they were ongoing. I feel betrayed, and you should too, that our city manager is not engaged in serious negotiations with the developer. Veranda Bay is selling lots, and once the sales of those lots are closed, each and every property owner would have to agree to annexation or it couldn't happen. This was the biggest chance that the city has had to get additional tax revenue in decades, and it just slipped through our fingers. This is another opportunity of epic proportions, another missed opportunity of epic proportions, and now at the end of the 11th hour, the city manager is trying to fix it. We all know what his track record is when he's in this type of situation. Shame on you, city manager, for not pursuing this goal set by your own city commission for 2 years in a row. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Hi, Chris Nelson, formerly 147 Avalon Avenue. Some of the council members, you're familiar with me. I do turtle patrol here for the last 14 years with Lori. My wife and I are now taking over management of turtle patrol in the state parks up the street here. I'm also your volunteer in invasive species removal here in the city, primarily Brazilian pepper being number 1 with that. Mr. Sherman actually came out to one of our events. The reason I'm here this evening is when we set up this program 4 years ago, this is our 4th year doing this now, we set it up with Larry Newsom, or God rest his soul there. The city supplied materials and it's provided labor for us in the forms of guys from sanitation, the hourly employees that they hired. That worked for quite a while. There was no issues or problems. Then we were hit with the devastating effects of COVID. And Larry couldn't even get guys to work the garbage trucks, let alone provide for pepper. We kept plugging along, removing the pepper, obviously at a much slower pace. Okay, so I was really overjoyed when we reached the concept of getting rid of Vertigo and starting our own parks department. Okay, with the 3 guys that they were going to have, I understand one has been terminated since then. Four guys would be even better, actually, for the parks here. You have a lot of ground to cover here. Anyway, I requested that they could help us, and they were starting to work with us. We're starting to train them how to remove the pepper, because I'm going to be 69 in a couple months. Some of the other guys I work with are over 70. So our time at dragging pepper around and cutting it is coming to a halt here in a few more years. We'd like to have a crew trained to take this over so it doesn't run amok again. We removed a lot of pepper in the city over the last 4 years. My thing is to see where the city stands on it. You guys think about it. We talked to the guys that were on that crew, your new parks crew. They didn't mind the work. They kind of enjoyed it actually because it was a change of pace. And then suddenly, I understand it's busier in the summer, but we were only asking for them 2 days a month, 2 to 3 hours a day, because that's all we can really do, especially this year with the heat the way it's been. Okay, because we can't drag this stuff. We don't mind cutting it, spraying it, treating it, but we need people to drag it for us. Their immediate supervisor, and let you guys, you're on my mailing list. Mr. Whitson's on the mailing list, the mayor's on the mailing list. So you know I send a letter out in advance of these events, and I made sure that their supervisor got it. Okay, the last 3 events, he said, yeah, I'll have people there, I'll have people there. No one showed. Okay, Tom was trying to look into it, see what the deal was. As far as I'm concerned, that's like rude and extraordinarily unprofessional, okay, on this gentleman's part. You know, so I need to have a commitment from the city. If I'm going to be out there dragging this stuff and cutting it on my time, and you're looking at just Tom and I working there, to replace us to do it, it would cost the city about $300 an hour to have somebody out there with the training to remove this stuff. So, you know, I don't mind doing it. It's an honor to do it, to try to make the city a better place. But like I say, it's just an issue of getting somebody to drag it. We're just getting too old to be dragging stuff around in the heat. I did it one day for him, and I almost like collapsed. So you guys think it over, decide what you want to run with it. I said I do have other projects I can be engaged with, you know, so, you know, to hash it over and then make a decision. Let Tom know, you have my email address, let me know where you want to run with it. You know, I'd like to be able to do it for at least another 2 years.
Thank you.
So, yeah, we got halfway through the park this year. The county came over, helped us, everything was great. And then it just came to a screeching halt. So, all right, that's it, thank you.
Wouldn't be a meeting if I didn't say anything. Bruno, South 27th. It's kind of like an update, Drew. I think we were on the docket this month for the golf course.
End of the month.
End of the month?
End of the
Okay.
month. But it's just preliminary hearings, so.
All right.
But at least we have hearing time both in the county case and in the circuit case.
Now, me and my friends went to go and play there about 2 weeks ago. It is beyond playable. We actually quit after 2 holes. There was no water, they claimed, for 2 weeks. So you got no grass, you got mole tunnels everywhere. I don't know, it's just giving us a bad name, that place. I don't know if anybody's aware of it. Are they running it down on purpose? I don't know. But it's horrible. It's my only thing. Just to let you know. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Okay, public comments is over. Thank you for the people that stood up and spoke. I'd like to address a few of these items. The first being Mr. Streit's water main questions and concerns, as well as the canopy. I know, Mr. Whitson, you and I spoke a little bit about this today, but can you talk a little bit about, you know, what's going on there, why we're not doing boring, and really basically, you know, why has there never been a hydrant there?
I'm going to get him.
Well, I can't speak to why there's never been a hydrant. Why there's never been a hydrant there, but I do know that we've planned one in the project, or at least I'm pretty sure we have. And the main goal is to change out the water pipe. And, you know, the bottom line is I circled the team. We considered the recommendation, and you're going to cut roots either way, whether you bore or whether you cut. And the staff has told me repeatedly that they have done the open trench cut multiple times without loss of canopy. All I can do is trust my staff who have been here for a long time, that know this landscape and know how things work here, and I do trust them. And so I listened to the engineer. He told me it was going to be another $36,000 on top of the budget we already have. We have the money budgeted. It's all ready to go. The bids have been let. The contractor's in place. And basically, it's, you know, does this commission want to add $36,000 more to the job? I don't have the authority to add $36,000 more to the job, and even if I did, I don't know where the money would come from. So at this point, my recommendation is to proceed with the project as planned, and my staff and the engineers assure me that it'll be all right.
Question.
Yeah, Mr. Strite, you cannot speak again right now, but you can at the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Clinton.
Just a question, and this isn't necessarily about, I don't know the situation, but in this, have we looked at the risk of running a line through the root system of oak trees? Because those oak tree roots are very different than a lot of the native trees down here, and they have a habit of wrapping and damaging the lines. I don't know if it's a risk for us as a city to run through it. Would it be worth looking at having an arborist or somebody go, it's probably not even a good idea for the line itself to be there? I don't know myself.
Well, that's the only place the line can be, A. And B, the tree canopy comes from trees that are on the public right-of-way, so they're really technically the city's trees. And so we've looked at everything, and unless y'all want me to go spend more money for an arborist, the budget is set, the project is set, and we're ready to proceed. I've provided you the engineering report, all the information and data that I have, and we're on a go, no-go.
We're putting in a bigger pipe than the one that was there.
Correct.
It's not that we're putting in new pipe. Well, it's new pipe.
Well, it's new, but it would be larger pipe,
Yeah,
yes.
so it's replacing what was there.
Yes, ma'am.
So I know new pipe, bigger pipe will take up more room. But I think whatever damage has been done to trees was done whenever they put the initial pipe in. And I'm not willing to pay another $36,000 or another anything beyond what we've already budgeted.
Okay. Mayor?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I heard Mr. Strite say that he had received 4 bids and they came in below the cost of cutting the trench. If that's so, did we get a copy of those bids, those 4 bids that were provided?
I've never seen it. I'm sure Mr. Strite's an honest individual and would share the information, but I've never seen that. We go through the city's bidding process.
Right.
We rely on the city engineer, and the city engineer that is under contract told me what he told me in the memo, which I've shared with everyone, and including Mr. Strite and the neighbors.
I'd like to see a copy of those bids, just for reference, understanding, and maybe we could use those companies to call out if they are coming in cheaper.
I don't have any issue at all with that. I mean, it may be that they would have to rethink a decision, but by all means, if they want to see it, they have every right to see it if the residents really want to provide it.
Right, but the job is bid, it's ready to go. Are you saying you want to pay more to another company to do the boring?
No, but I'm saying that if there's a job that can be done at a less cost and it's going to make a resident happy.
It's not a less cost. It would be additive.
William, Mr. Strite said that he had bids and some of them came in lower. If that is the case, let's look at it. In addition, to his point, it has been since years. If the residents on that street are happy with waiting to have a bore done, it's been since what, 2019? 6 months might be okay for them. We want to keep everyone happy, and if it comes in cheaper and they've already waited, a little bit of time might add some peace to the situation. That's my thought.
Can I ask Mr. Strite to come back up? Mr. Strite, can you please come back up?
While he's coming up, can I ask a question? When you bid this project, you advertised, you did what you needed to do. You don't know if you heard from these 4 companies, because we don't know who they are.
Exactly. We bid it. We have bid specs. We have a job awarded. It is being overseen by the engineer. If you want to reach outside that process, I guess the commission can do that, but I am very concerned about that's not the normal way we do things.
Mr. Strite, to our mayor's point, can you talk a little bit about these companies that you have spoken to?
Yes, I had been given the names of these 4 companies from another competent boring contractor who said they would be willing to bid it. Okay? The next thing I want to read, if you wouldn't mind, just to educate everybody, because I had to go through the due diligence process myself. I watched the boring process being done. When you don't open cut, there's no restoration, and there can be no damage if you do it right to the roots. That bore can go down any distance. It doesn't go through the roots. If you want it to go under the roots, you design it to bore it 6 foot down, 7 foot down, whatever you determine is going to be best for the tree structure. The other thing is, like I said, those trees mitigate the wind for us. It's just huge what it does. If you've lived down there where we are, you've seen what the ramifications are of not having trees versus having the trees. Now, if I could read a very quick article here, just to, you guys can hear it, it's very short. Studies claim the trenchless construction cost comparison is massive. 4 studies have been published that state the trenchless construction cost comparison versus traditional trenching is massive and worth a look at. It's a no-brainer. America's underground infrastructure needs work, just like here. Lots of work. Pressing questions that municipalities and the private sector face include citizen reactions to disrupted business and activities. A recent study shows that the trenchless construction cost comparison is lower than traditional open cut methods in almost all categories. The ingrained habit, and this is when I talked to in a separate email I had, that this is boilerplate engineering. This article addresses this that I found after that. It says,
Debbie, you got to put in time.
The ingrained habit may play a part as engineers look at the open cut and cover methods they've used for centuries, but advances in trenchless technology offer lower cost impact solutions than conventional trench warfare on city streets.
Okay.
And one last item, if you can, it's related. The pipe work that's being done or being finished here on 15th, 16th, 14th, whatever, as we were coming over here to the meeting, the amount of silt coming off that area headed toward our estuaries was prolific. I couldn't film it because it was raining so hard. But that's an issue we've talked about before, and we can talk about it later. But the silt that was coming off those areas was incredible. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Strite.
So I would like to know, we put this out for bid.
Yep.
Mr. Strite, did any of those companies that you talked about, did they submit a bid to the city?
In a meeting we had on May 15th, some residents, about 6 of us, Mr. Whitson, Chief, et cetera, over at the PD, we had a meeting on these issues. One of the residents, who was an expert on boring, offered to give names of boring contractors to Mr. Whitson.
Not our process. Our process is to advertise and then companies send in bids. So my question, not a long story.
No.
Did any of those 4 companies submit a bid?
No, they weren't asked to.
Okay.
Is that what you need?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. But our procedure is not to ask. We advertise and then the companies come to us.
The engineer designed the project.
Right.
We bid it.
Right.
We got the bids back. And if you're talking about wanting to put a water line 7 foot below the surface, that is not normal. I don't want my crews maintaining water lines 7 foot down.
I was going to ask about that.
I just don't think this is we're re-engineering, rethinking the process after the bids have already been done, and that's just not a normal process, and that's all I got to say.
Okay, and I don't dispute that, but I just wanted to give the Strites the opportunity to talk about their concerns as well.
James has something.
I just had a question too. So is there a way we can get like I think we might have briefly spoke about this, but is there a way, any way for the commission or, have some sort of analysis done on these other dirt roads around the barrier island as well to identify any other infrastructure issues that might be, such as, getting if we can get fire hydrants out there and different things to ensure that all these roads are getting the same, or, resources that the rest of our paved streets are getting. I know this is well before your time that a fire hydrant wasn't put there, and probably should have been done when, Palmetto wasn't going to go, they knew Palmetto wasn't going to work. So, I just was wondering if there were any other areas around town that we need to address these issues outside of Oak Place, because this is kind of a, as you mentioned before, it's a single point of failure, and I do have concerns. I'm very familiar with this road. I walk it regularly with my daughter, and I do have, I've spent extensive time looking at, if we had a fire, where would our firefighters get to this line to one of these houses that are further down the road, because the next fire hydrant would be on 18th, and that's all wooded there. So I don't, it is a concern for me, and just in that neighborhood completely. And I just wanted to make sure that if all the roads that are not paved have the necessary infrastructure, ensure that our firefighters have a chance to save these structures and everything.
Yeah, we can do an assessment, but again, the way cities develop, the development patterns of cities, different times, the timing of these things come in. Penny knows this in terms of the way things develop. Somebody comes forward with a plan, it's not a complete plan. We put in partial infrastructure, you kind of piecemeal it together over the years. This happens all over the city, it's very common. But we could do an assessment to see how far short we are on some of these areas.
This project, 14 companies picked up the bid package for this, and only 4 responded of those 14 with a bid.
Thank you.
Oh, that's good information.
Right.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you. Just really quickly, towing cars during First Friday? Do we tow cars during First Friday?
He was talking about private lots, not city towing.
It's okay.
Chair.
Yeah.
I want to clear the air on something. I am someone who regularly asks tow cars, and it is absolutely categorically false unless you're using some company I've never heard of about getting kickbacks about towing cars. I've used all the major ones, and that is completely false. So I don't know how or why the cars are getting towed. I can't speak to that. It sounds like the areas are labeled, but I don't want the business sector getting a bad rap about getting kickbacks about towing cars, which is completely not true.
And just for what it's worth, state law is very strict on how, when, how, and why cars are towed, and prohibit things like that also. So if it is going on, there is recourse to somebody who gets their car towed if it was towed improperly. But it's not a city issue, it is a state law issue.
Okay, thank you. 2 more things I'd briefly like to talk about. And Mr. Whitson, I'd like for you to touch on this. Commissioner Bellhumer talked about annexation. We had some conversations today. We had some conversations today on annexation, and has it really been lost at Veranda Bay?
Before he answers that, and I've heard some chatter, I didn't know where it was coming from, but I'm sorry, Rick, but I've got to take issue with the comments, because I don't remember when it was, but it was last year sometime when I was in the first of those Zoom meetings with Mr. Belchi and his attorney, and we heard the same thing that Commissioner Bellhumer had mentioned, that I'm very interested because of the Flagler Beach address. And I know Mr. Whitson probably about once every month, probably at least, would call me and tell me he'd talk to Mr. Belchi again. Right. But there was another issue. A negotiation takes 2 parties, and not that Mr. Belchi has ever expressed disinterest. He has always expressed that interest. But as long as that challenge was going on, he had a significant hurdle, and he could not commit to anything. But the idea that Mr. Whitson wasn't engaged with him, shocking to me to hear, since I was in at least one of those, I think 2 of those conversations from early on. Two, is it lost? It gets harder as lots get sold, certainly. Since I have heard chatter and I don't know what the actual facts on the ground are, under contract is different than sold. But yes, Commissioner Bellhammer is exactly right that as properties get sold, that's one more person you have to convince. Voluntary annexation may come off the table if you have very many owners at all, because then you have to have 100%. You're looking at standard annexation. Another issue that I know that Mr. Whitson has been working on with Mr. Belchi is trying to figure out an acreage layout, because as you know, within our own charter, annexation changes depending on how big of an area or how much area is being annexed in a given year. Mr. Belchi's first phase is larger than we could do with just a voluntary annexation. It would require a referendum of our own, unless there's some split to that. And until he can draw lines that make reasonable sense for him and also contiguous, compact, and able for us to annex it lawfully, there's questions left to be answered. But I don't know that this was a dropped ball on negotiations, just because from very early on, I was in your office on a Zoom meeting having that exact conversation with Mr. Belchi. So I wanted to jump in and say that.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Chair.
Commissioner Khalid?
Just for, I don't know if it's 100% locked in or not, but supposedly the first contracted property is going to be closing in that subdivision in 10 days. Okay. So whatever happens between Mr. Belchi and the city would that would involve probably a high sense of urgency.
Okay.
Annexation didn't happen in 10 days.
No. But, what happens after that?
The gross over statement that the opportunity is lost is just not true. And so we're going to pursue the discussions to their logical end and do what we can do.
And what happens with that, and one thing where I think negotiation and conversation with Mr. Belchi can continue, is if he does sell lots or sell chunks of land, to engage those people in the same conversation. Because essentially, that's what happens as lots sell, is the group you're negotiating with gets larger. I mean, cities do voluntary annexations with entire neighborhoods sometimes. It's certainly not impossible to do a voluntary. Again, voluntary requires 100%. It's easy because you don't have to have a referendum. Everybody just comes in, 100% sign off, you annex the property. With standard annexation, which requires referendum, at least of the people that are being annexed, if not the people, the entire population of the city, depending on size here in Flagler Beach. But then it's 50% plus one. Then you're a majority of the area. So even when it's a non-voluntary annexation, you may not have to have 100%, but your process is more strenuous.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Of course.
Drew, I just had a question too. With some of these subdivisions, when they get, I don't know if HOAs will play into it, and the roads, and I'm not trying to get too far into the weeds here, but how does that work exactly? Like if technically the citizen wouldn't own the road unless it's gated, of course, and the HOA would own those things. So not to get too far into the weeds, how would that work if, the developer agreed that they would, we could annex that, but then, the adjacent properties there? I mean, is that a possible, I don't know if that would be something that would end up happening. But... No, well, with the HOA, as long as it's in build-out phase, the HOA would be controlled by the developer, so he would have the HOA's vote. Okay. So for any infrastructure, but even if you're in a post-turnover situation, the referendum is going to control that. Now, if you had, let's say, it's a significant variation on the question you're asking, but it goes to the same point. What do you do with non-residential properties? Since there's nobody to vote, there's not a registered voter at that address. Got it. And if you had an area, let's say we were annexing a commercial area, so there's nobody in that area that can vote, then we wouldn't have a referendum because there'd be nobody to vote in it. Then we have to get consent of those non-voting property owners. So it's still 50% plus one. It's just there's no referendum since there is no registered elector tied to that address. Okay, thank you. But you would not ever have a situation where we could voluntarily annex roads when the adjacent land isn't annexing also, because we'd be creating an enclave, and we can't do that. We have to have that contiguous and compact area. Has to be lined up with the city of Flagler Beach. We can't be creating pockets and fingers.
Mr. Whitson, is it fair to ask of you to come back to the commission with your discussions with Mr. Belchi, your findings? Not, okay.
Yeah, look, we're in discussions.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't.
When it's right, when it's ready,
Okay.
you'll be
Be the first to hear.
definitely the first to
Okay.
know.
Just wanted to understand for my own. Okay, and then the last is Mr. Nelson spoke about our Brazilian pepper and our Parks Department crew was a no-show.
I don't know about that. I know that Tom has been working with him and telling him that we're short of staff.
Okay.
That's the issue. We're short. And I applaud the gentleman. I want to work with him. I want to get these Brazilian peppers out. But I also want to respond to commissioner complaints or neighbors' complaints about cutting grass and making sure that other things are done all over the city. And I've got a 3-person crew right now. We are trying to get another person hired. But if you haven't noticed lately, it's hard to find people that want to work and, those kind of things. So we're trying, and it's just a manpower issue. In the meantime, and I don't know, the gentleman left, I already emailed out that we were trying to reach out to the sheriff to see if we could get prison labor to assist us.
Yep.
So we're going to try that. I mean, we'll try every way we can. We totally appreciate his efforts, and I want to eradicate the Brazilian peppers. But the problem is they grow when all the rest of the stuff grow, and I have to choose between getting the parks maintenance done and the right-of-way maintenance done and making a special effort for Brazilian peppers. So,
Okay, thank you. Of course, Commissioner Sherman.
Mr. Whitson, is there any issues if I were to get some able-bodied people, like my work, we're able to volunteer so much, and I have some probably able-bodied people that would come up here and help for a few hours.
I think that'd be great. We just need to make sure we have some safety training, and we also have some liability issues with, that we have to address.
Okay.
With Liz, yeah.
Yeah, because if we were just hauling away just the scraps or anything like that, it wouldn't be like actually cutting with the chainsaws or probably even applying necessarily the chemical that you would put on the stump. It would be more or less, I'd have, a group of my people, volunteers.
Well, the practice is that we cut them, and then Rob and they get hauled to a place, and Rob comes and gets them. So there's another crew that also is impacted.
Okay.
I can't pull people off garbage routes. You know what I'm saying? So there's this pull and tug at City Resources. And again, I respect the gentleman. I appreciate what he's saying, but it's a matter of choices. And right now, I have high demand and limited resources.
Commissioner Cooley.
Sanitation has helped this group multiple times in years past. When you get large volunteer efforts like this, my viewpoint is we're almost, it's in our best interest. We're almost compelled to make sure we are bending over backwards. It's free labor. If they don't take care of the Brazilian peppers, we're going to do it later. We might as well get it done with volunteer crews now. Now, our grounds crew, and I don't know if this is an accurate statement or not, but it seems to be, my impression is our grounds crew has been understaffed since it began. Is that true?
The commission decided to hire 4. You authorized 4 positions, and you said if we need a 5th position, we could, approach you at that time. We haven't been able to keep 4. And so I'd love to go ahead and staff up to 5, to be honest with you, because the demand is there. But I would need more money.
Well, we can't even get 4. Right, you don't have the bodies.
Have to authorize the funding, and then I would have to go, get the staffing.
And I've said this before, sanitation is never short-staffed because they bring in temps. We should be doing that with the grounds crew. Liz, I don't know what the process is with that, but the thing is if we can't run a grounds crew, then we need to get a company in here that can. We've been an entire year on an understaffed grounds crew that never, ever has been fully staffed. If we can't do it, we can't have large volunteer efforts like the Brazilian pepper crew that's been here for longer than I've lived here bail on us because we fail. Hire temps, do something. but and if our grounds crew can't do it, and it sounds like they're not.
You want to provide some more funding, we'll be happy to do that because it's over $20 an hour to get the temps.
Well, you got
They went
plenty of
up on it
funding.
already.
You've been understaffed all year. You got funding.
So you want me to move the funding
You've been
from-
working with half a crew. I mean, you didn't spend the labor.
You want me to move the funding from those line items to bring in temps like we do day laborers, like we do?
You're not moving line
sanitation?
items. If you were budgeted for 4 people and you used 2, that means you have 2.
No, we have 4, we have authorization for 4 positions. We are down 1. And we would like to add a 5th, but we don't have the funding for it.
Which means you have a lot of labor you haven't spent. So, to answer your question, yes, because you should be severely in the good on your labor because you didn't spend it, because we're down a person. I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of it, but if we lose large volunteer organizations that have been a staple of the city because we as a city are failing them, that's a huge miss. That's the only thing I got.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda, does anyone? I didn't forget you on purpose for
It
now.
was Drew answered it.
Yeah. Thank you, though. Consent agenda, does anyone wish to remove or have further discussion on any consent agenda items?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know, William may have answered some of my questions, so I may not, but look, give me a minute. Yeah, I think we should review number 8. And 9. Eight and 9.
Have anything else? No?
If no one has any comments, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda items 7 and 10.
I'll second that.
Only public comment, probably.
Yeah.
Open it up to public comment regarding our consent agenda, approving the regular meeting minutes of July 28th, and approving a contract with Moffett and Nickel for engineering and design services for the fishing pier. Okay, seeing no public comment, bring it back for discussion on number 8 and number 9.
Well, we have to vote on the other two.
Oh, sorry, oops. It's only my second rodeo.
I
on
know,
that, so-
you're doing fine.
I know. Okay.
It's audible.
All in favor, say aye for 7 and 10.
Aye.
Okay, I just thought this legislative requests, I think they're important. So I wanted, everybody else supporting all these items, or did you want to add anything? I thought we did that William did a good job.
I thought the ads were good.
Yeah.
I thought they were good too. The only question I had was the vulnerability assessment that was awarded to Beverly Beach and Flagler Beach. Is it shared at $100,000?
Well, we will receive the contract and expend it on their behalf and coordinate with them.
Coordinate with them, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's the only question I had.
Okay, I very much like the items that were put in there, and I just wanted to bring that forward. So if nobody else has any.
Any questions or comments on number 8? Lost Penny. Open it up to public, sorry, thank you. Open up to public comments. Approve the 2023 legislative priorities list for presentation to Flagler County and Northeast Florida Regional Planning Council. Does anybody have any comments on that? Okay, I'll bring it back to the commission for a motion.
Motion to approve the legislative priorities for 2023.
Second. Second.
All in favor? Say
Aye.
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 The ayes have it.
And
Number 9.
the repairs on the WIC line, wind retrofit. I think this is a very good project. I just wanted to bring that out. And then I had some comments. William's aware of my comments, but I'd like to put them out there. On page 33. Under environmental, it said that if the project was delayed for a year or more, we'd have to basically start all over again. And I was thinking in terms of, you can't get windows, you can't get wood, you can't get this, you can't get that. And I don't know if that could stretch out for a year. William, you want to say how you covered that issue?
Yes, ma'am. Again, if there were exigent, what that's referred to in federal terms as exigent circumstances, we would be eligible for extension requests, and we would handle it that way. So right now, Lee's done an excellent job of lining up the suppliers and the contractors, and I think we're going to be in good shape. But should we run into something like that, we would ask for the extensions.
Well, waiting on supplies is not a project delay, though, correct? That doesn't even qualify as a project delay.
It does.
Does it?
Yeah.
I would think so. Why you're not doing the project?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's in the context of the COVID environment. I think everybody gets that, and I've had enough conversations in Tallahassee to know that they understand that. And so I think that would qualify.
Well, it says in the report here that the lead time for receiving the materials was 12 to 14 weeks for the doors and a few more weeks for the windows. So you would have...
Yeah, I'm supposed to get a screen on my pool fixed 3 months ago. It's still hanging down. You know, they can promise you all kinds of stuff. If it's not available, it's not available.
Well, a big $133,000 job is different than a repair job. So you'd think that they're going to order the materials and be on time and know that the city's watching.
I remember a developer that we didn't like the design of the left side of his house, this outside of his house, and we asked him to put a window on the side. Do you remember how hysterical he got about asking to put one window in? Because he had to wait 8 months to get the window. So we settled to have just like some kind of a framework or something, just something to decorate the house. I just want to make sure we don't end up losing this because supplies aren't available. It might work out fine. I just wanted to make sure. And then on page 34, there's this whole long list of programmatic things, and William, if you could address some of them. That yes, we're okay with all of this.
I was trying to find that reference on 34. Is that the...
It's all of section E.
Oh, yes, this is the federal boilerplate.
Yeah, I know it is, but are we addressing it all?
Yes. It basically has to do with the rules under the Code of Federal Regulations in FEMA. And we're well aware of the regulations and the compliance needed for the mitigation efforts. So I think we're in good shape there. We've actually had extensive discussions with the agency, and we actually had a conference call, if I recall correctly, Lee, where we went over some of these things with them. And so I think we're in good shape, and Lee's double-checked everything, and I think that our suppliers meet the test, and we'll be good.
Good, okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure we were addressing everything they're asking us to address. I know it's all boilerplate stuff, but got to do it anyway.
Yeah, they watch that. They have checklists because when I was working the hurricanes out in Texas, it was common for us to have these lengthy discussions, and I found out that they were just going down their checklist. So we have the same checklist.
And it says that I'm sorry, on page 38. There's 1 through 5, and then there's a paragraph that doesn't have a number or anything. It starts out with the hazard mitigation, folks. That paragraph.
Yes, the one below 5?
The one below 5, yes.
Yes.
It says that the contract manager will evaluate requests for cost overruns and submit to the regional director, blah, blah. Cost overruns will meet federal regulations. We're all familiar with that, and we're taking care of that.
Absolutely. And again, here, I think the way we're going to handle this particular project is the normal cost share on a hazard mitigation project is 75-25. But because of, we're fortunate we have most of our prices locked down, but let's just say we did have something creep up, we could actually cover that difference in our match and just call it our match. And they don't care if you match above 25, they just want to make sure you match at least 25.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are my questions.
Anybody else have questions? Okay, open it up to the public. Approving a contract for accepting the Florida Division of Emergency Management Hazard Mitigation Grant for our city Wickline Center wind retrofit. Does anybody have any questions or public comments? Oh. Okay, bring it back to the board for a motion.
Make a motion, we approve the contract with the Florida Division of Emergency Management for hazard mitigation grant for the Wickline Center.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. Excuse me, moving on to general business. We're removing number 11 at this time. Number 12, results of the city manager evaluation. All commissioners and our mayor have evaluated our city manager. Our city manager has also done a self-evaluation that we've all received. So Liz, if you want to come up to the podium or the desk.
There she is.
Well, as stated in, we just have the summary of scores for the meeting. All of you completed an evaluation. Mr. Whitson completed a self-evaluation. I understand that you'll be doing one-on-ones to go over your evaluations with him. Tonight, we're looking at the summary of scores. If anyone has any questions, just let me know.
Does anybody have any questions for Liz? Okay, everybody will be doing their one-on-ones at some point. I did briefly talk to Liz today, as well as Mr. Whitson, about department heads, evaluating Mr. Whitson as well. And we've had a little bit of hesitancy to do that, but we're kind of plugging along and seeing what we can get.
I think the hesitancy was more in a public forum.
Correct.
I think many of them will be meeting with Mr. Whitson one-on-one, rather than presenting them in a public meeting.
Well, they wouldn't be presenting in a public meeting. It was supposed to be unanimous or anonymous, where they were submitting something without a name.
Well, there was many that didn't even want to do anonymous, putting it with an agenda item or anything like that. So it has been addressed. They are going to do it.
Yeah, and when I asked Liz about it yesterday, she pointed out something I had not thought about. If they email it, it becomes public record.
But it's public record regardless. It doesn't matter in what form. It's still public record.
If they email it, it has their name attached to it.
Yeah.
Right, so you're doing hard copy, turn into a mailbox or something?
I've asked whoever wants to turn it in, they can print it out, type it up, put it in an envelope, hard copy, if they want to, no name attached to it.
And really, some of the questions don't pertain to staff. Correct. Like, how does he relate to us? That's not something they know about. Or even how does he relate with the public? A lot of staff doesn't know. They have no way of knowing. So I think actually, while it was not a bad idea, I think there should be a different form or just comments in general, rather than the form that we use. So, I don't know, we try again next year?
Try again next year with it. Okay, I'm fine with that. Okay, thank you, Liz. Open it up to public comments, results of the city manager evaluation. Does anybody have any public comments they'd like to make?
Yeah, Denise Stride, 1839 Oak Place. When does the public get to chime in on this issue? Or that it's just not a lasting matter to go, well, they don't feel like doing it, so I guess we're just going to gloss over it? I don't understand this.
Well, the public doesn't have written comments regarding our city manager, but if you want, it's public record, so if you want to see anything that we've written for our ratings, you can request of Penny.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say, shouldn't the public be able to have an opinion?
That's what it is right now.
Yeah. I mean, if you have
I just feel
like... it's not written or documented in a format.
I just have even with my own neighbors, we just feel very targeted and very, it's almost like a retaliation with Mr. Whitson. It's like a vendetta against certain citizens in this community that you can just, I mean, this is not a private conversation where people are whispering about it. People are absolutely feeling targeted, or that he has a vendetta against them, or it's become petty. And so that's my comment.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay. Moving on to item number 15. Receive a fiscal year 22-23 budget report and discussion direction regarding the millage rate. If you want to take that over, Mr. Whitson, you have sharpened your pencil and reduced the millage rate down to 5.45, correct?
Before he starts, I think Penny's getting Commissioner Bryan on the phone.
Okay.
And just in case there is anything that you take action on, as we talked about before, you are authorized to allow somebody to vote by phone, but only when it's in the case of emergency. I think you all know why Mr. Bryan, Commissioner Chair Bryan is not present. You have in the past declared that an emergency, but do you want to, as a commission, designate his absence tonight as an emergency in case there is a vote on this matter, so that he can participate in that vote?
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Is there a motion to that effect? Would somebody like to make that motion?
As he looks at me.
You were the first to nod your head.
Oh, okay. I'll make a motion that Chairman Bryan be permitted to vote on item 15 as he is not able to be here because of an emergency.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Welcome, Commissioner. Welcome,
You're
Chair.
officially allowed, Ken.
A legitimate Ken.
Was I loud enough to be heard?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Can you hear them?
I can hear them very well. My cat had jumped up on my lap and my voice. I'm sorry.
Okay, Mr. Whitson, I'm going to punt it to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Can I just ask, I'm sorry for you, if you're not speaking, turn your mics off so we can prevent feedback, and I'll turn it up a little bit to make sure he hears everything.
Thank you. Thank you, Penny.
You're welcome.
Okay. You've seen the memorandum I prepared on August 10. After the commission settled on the tentative millage rate of 5.50, you asked me to go back and look at where we could trim and bring down the millage rate a little more. We basically have done that. We've checked everything. It's looking pretty good. Just to kind of give you a feel for it, our millage rate last year, the final millage rate, the adopted millage rate, was 5.42. And if you look at a home, again, we just pulled a figure out of the air, $300,000 valuation of a home, and I can pass this out so you could see it if you'd like. I'm just going to read this off. Last year, that millage rate at the 5.42, the total tax bill was $1,626. If the proposed rate of 5.45 were adopted, that same home would see a tax increase of $145.25 for the year, meaning $12.10 a month, or breaking it down into a single day, it'd be 40 cents a day. So it's very, very close to where we were last year, given the fact that we've had the worst inflation in 40 years. Costs are rising. As you can see, demands for services are up. I think that's a reasonable ask. And so I'm recommending the rate of 5.45. If you aren't happy with that rate, we could have another workshop and see where we could go with it. But staff is comfortable with this rate. We feel like we can make it work. It would be one of those budgets that's tight, but not too tight. My concern with rolling it back even further would be, the flexibility that would be lost. And I just would like to see us try to come in around this level. And I've done the analysis, you've had the information, and that's the recommendation from the team.
Mr. Whitson, can you talk a little bit about the salary survey? Because the one thing that I am concerned about is I want to make sure that our police, fire staff, are paid.
Sure.
And do receive raises outside of COLA.
Sure. The way that the budget was structured and the way that I would like to proceed, should you approve it, is that everyone in the city, except for myself, I don't get anything, okay? The staff gets automatically the 6.6% as the COLA, because that was your recommendation. That would happen upon the first payroll of the new fiscal year. Then there's this pot of funds that would be allocated out amongst the staff to bring them up to, further along in the pay scales than where they are. In order to fairly administer that and try to benchmark certain positions and duties and responsibilities, I'll need to go ahead and do the salary survey as a guideline and a tool for Liz and I and the payroll and finance people to use. So basically, we would like to go ahead and advance fund that, initiate that effort, get it going, so that as soon after the fiscal year as the study and the benchmarks are available, then we could go proceed with allocating out the funding. We are actually at the table negotiating with the police union, and we know what their targets are. And so we would, of course, administer this in a way to hit or come as close to those targets as possible. And then we would go through the rest of the staff with the funds available and get them as high as we can with the available funding. I anticipate once the survey is completed that will probably get us, I don't know, 50, 60, 70% of the way down the road, and then the remaining areas where we may not be competitive with certain pay grades and certain skill levels and things like that, we would come back and address that next fiscal year. So we would take what we have, utilize it, with the COLA being first, then we would take what we would have, utilize it, use the survey as the benchmark on how to allocate it, get the pay ranges up, the targets up to be competitive for our wastewater individuals, for the public works individuals, for all of the different labor categories. I mean, the city has a wide variety of positions and skill levels and pay ranges, and we would get them up as much as we can with those funds, and then the next year we would come back and see if we have any shortfalls.
Thank you. Commissioners, Mayor, questions?
I still think that after we went through it in the budget workshops, that I think we could bring it down a little bit more. That's just my thoughts. We did say yes to a lot of things that were wants, not needs, but I don't know what's been changed either. It would involve a lot more discussion, and so I can't really speak to details. I did. I went through some of that.
Commissioner Bryan?
Yes, my comment is just basic. I mean, I went over it as well. And I mean, one of the things and one of the areas that I'm definitely opposed to not cutting, and that has to do with salaries. And I think that some of the comments that were made earlier about not being able to fill vacancies is a testament to why we're unable to fill some of the vacancies. I mean, right now, a cashier at Buc-ee's makes more than our police officers starting. So I think this is a tremendous concern that we have to look at. And again, I'm just saying that that's one area that I'm not really in favor of actually cutting.
Thank you. Anybody else?
So basically, unless you have any further questions at this point, obviously the public, would need to be consulted. And then what I would be looking for from the commission is direction to go ahead and advertise the final millage rate or another millage rate if you want to do a workshop. You would have to have a workshop to kind of sort through things. And we could set that up, or you could say, okay, we're good with a 5.45, and then that would be advertised as the final millage rate, and that would take the two budget readings. One is on September 8th, that would be the first one, and then the second one would be, in the final adoption, would be September 22nd.
And just so the public is clear, if that direction is given today, the commission still has the ability to change that as you move through the process. Those public hearings are there for a purpose. Right. I don't want there to be any misconception or misunderstanding or anything put on social media saying that you made your decision tonight. You're not making a decision on the final millage rate tonight. You're directing staff how to advertise what will come as your final public hearings about the millage rate.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public.
Oh, just one other informational comment. As a reminder, we would have to cut $90,000 out to lower it another tenth of a mil.
Correct. That's the rule of thumb is around 90 grand for every tenth of a mil.
Yeah. I personally am in a position to agree to the.
Oh, I spoke.
I'm in a position tonight to agree to the 5.45. But I'm going to open it up to the public if anybody would like to come up and talk about our budget or millage rate.
A process is, how does the tremendous increase in property values enter into your millage rate calculations?
Drew?
So your benchmark is always, or it hasn't always been, but for most time I've been practicing, has been the rollback rate. And the rollback rate is the number that Mr. Strite references. You get to the rollback rate is the millage rate that would have generated the same amount of tax revenue as last year. So that's always their starting spot, is actually rollback is the starting spot. So it kind of automatically adjusts that millage rate, their starting spot millage rate, to the rollback. and then they work from there. So the way the law is set up now, it kind of contemplates property increases. Or when we went through the recession, it also contemplates decreases, and then we call it a roll forward.
Thank you.
27th Street. Question, you're basing it on a 300, you say as of last year, but that house that was based on 300,000 last year is now 350, 400,000. So when you say the average tax rate's only going to go up 142, it's really not correct, correct?
There's not even a house on this island.
Oh,
for
I know that, but
300,000.
you're using that 300,000 as an example. I know mine, you know, I know what mine went up. You know, we all go, it's, you know, in one sense it's good, the houses are going up, you're paying taxes, so the $160 more than last year is really not accurate, at least in my opinion. It's my opinion. The second thing is, when we talk about the raises, you say COLA plus the 6 point?
No, the 6 point is the COLA.
Is the COLA, it's everything. Okay, thank you.
But with the raises, there would be COLA plus adjustments. It's a salary wage adjustment. So you have positions that have fallen behind where they should actually be based on market. And so you have COLA. So you have cost of living, which is across the board. Then you have salary wage adjustments. And there's two different things that are baked into that actual budgeted item.
And it's still not going to bring the salaries up to competitors. Don't just, we train people and then they go elsewhere. So that's. Sorry.
Okay, and bring it back to the commission and to our mayor. Do we have any other comments or questions, our city manager, before we move forward with making a motion to potentially approve the 5.45?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve. No,
It's
we don't
just to
approve
give
it.
direction.
What are we doing?
You're giving direction to
Give
staff to
direction to
use
staff.
Oh, no motion. Okay.
was it 5.45 as the number for the final millage rate hearings?
What he said.
Okay. Do we need a second?
If there's a motion, you need a second for it, yes.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Okay.
Is there a vote?
Yeah, we would.
Roll call is fine on direction to
Yeah, because
direction to
we
staff.
need to know that there's 4.
You don't, well, for your purposes, yes, you don't have to have 4 tonight because this is not a formal setting, but, or a formal setting of the millage, yes.
Okay, so are we doing a roll?
I will.
Okay.
Commissioner Bryan?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman?
Yes.
Commissioner Mealy?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooley?
No.
Chair Phillips?
Yes.
Ken, did you want to stay on, or?
I'll be okay. If I need to call in, I'll call, but I think I'm okay.
Perfect. Have a good night.
You don't want to hear me coughing anyway.
Have a good night. Hope you feel better.
Hope you feel better, Ken.
All right, thanks very much.
Okay, agenda item 16, provide recommendation to staff regarding IT services. Mr. Whitson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your packet, there's a proposal for IT services for next fiscal year. The funding, last year we were paying $50,000 to the county for IT services. If you approve this proposal, that service cost would go from $50,000 to $125,000. That is a little bit more than what we had discussed in the tentative budget hearing, but we went ahead and made that adjustment in the final budget materials that you just approved. So we did receive 3 bids. 2 of the 3 bids were even higher than that and above our projected budget levels. One bid was, I think, around $110,000, but I was concerned about where that bidder was. I think they're over in Orlando, and of course their bandwidth and capacity to service our needs, in particular with public safety. So my recommendation, after discussing it with the staff, is that we move forward with agreeing to continue with the county at the new price of $125,000. And if the county performs, then great, I think we can continue. But if, say, there's some sort of service concerns, then we could always bring in someone to assist us to refine the RFP to make sure that it was crystal clear what we were looking for. And someone also pointed out that we may not have hit the Jacksonville market when we went out. So there's another option in terms of advertisement and being more targeted in our efforts as we go out in the future. And so that's our recommendation tonight. And, you know, we need to know pretty quickly because our current agreement with the county expires as of 30 September. So we need to go ahead and signal to the county, do we want to continue? Do we want to go forward or not? I've spoken with the county administrator and the deputy county administrator, and they're good with this. We've shown them drafts of the agreement. I think we're good to go. If you're pleased with that, the staff would be pleased to give it a try, and that's where we are tonight.
Okay, just to clarify, we would enter into a one-year contract?
Correct.
Okay. Commissioners, Mayor, any questions?
Go ahead, I'll wait.
No, Penny, you can go first.
Yeah, you first.
You go first.
I just would also like to add that the bids that were received, that one that was 110, that did not include special services, special projects, hooking up the fiber that we're going to be putting in with the ARPA funds, the connection. The company will come in and pull it, but that base charge does not cover those extra projects. The county does include that in that price.
Good
We
to
also
know.
have 2 server changeovers. That's not everyday IT. That's not, you know, I can't get my email.
Right.
Those would all be extra charges at a high rate. I'm sure a high hourly rate.
Yeah. So we just felt like, wait a minute, you know, if you're comparing apples to apples here, we're going to be okay. We know what we have with the county. Let's, if we have concerns there down the road, we can always sharpen the RFP. We learned a lot out of this first go round, and there was actually a bidder that didn't bid, who was going to bid, that I absolutely know has the bandwidth to do the job. But apparently their marketing person came down with COVID, and that's why they didn't submit the bid by the deadline. So it's not like all gloom and doom here. We have plenty of options, but I think our safest route, the surety route, is to continue with the county based on where we are.
Well, I have to say, this is extremely minor, but the email system we just upgraded to is fantastic. I mean, it's way better than what we had before through the county, so.
Question?
Jeff Wheeler?
So will we, since they already have everything in place to utilize social media, will we be able to utilize the same things they utilize?
Yes, what we lack is the horsepower to put the stuff out. But with some of the contractual arrangements with the new app and, of course, the staff we're training and gearing up, I think we'll be in better shape to push more information out, to add more messages out there. It's just a matter of, you know, making sure we feed it. The tools will be there. It's the feeding it that we need to work on some more.
Mr. Amelia?
Minor question. Not so minor to me. Are we still going to have to change our password every 3 months, 4 months, whatever it was? That's fine. But could we build something in where they let us know instead of...
Oh, where it just stops working?
No email.
I believe with this new, the 365, that there's better ability for them, because staff would get a message. I
We didn't.
Because you were going through the web to get your mail, that it wasn't. But with this, I think he will. I'll double check, I'll write it down.
Okay.
Because we always did, 7 days.
Well, it used to be, you know, a year or so ago, we always, you know, you've got 2 weeks to change your password. Now it was like, sorry, no email.
When they set me up, I got a notification.
You did?
Really? I have like, and maybe it's because I'm Mac, I don't know, and I go through a totally different server program. But I didn't have a problem.
Okay, well.
I feel your pain though. It's never let me know.
It was
You just
awful.
go to check your email and
Didn't work.
nothing.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Okay. Any other questions on the dais? Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public, providing, if anybody has any public comment regarding our IT services, entering into a contract for 1 year with the county.
Quentin Park, South Flagler Avenue. I was in a meeting with Sheriff Staley the other night, and he went out and found IT other than the county. So maybe that's something we'd ask him about and go on from there. It might be cheaper. He said it was a lot less than the county.
Might be worth looking at after a year, see how he feels.
Yeah,
Do you mind if I respond?
No, go right ahead.
Yeah, we've been.
Tried that.
We absolutely have been in communication with him. We're aware of that. And again, we're going to see how that goes and see what he doesn't really know his true cost yet. So we're going to monitor that. And we have every confidence that the county will do a good job, but we'll keep an eye on that. And that also gives us another option of a contractor that could bid should we go to that point. And the good thing about that is they would be specialists in the public safety area, because in my mind, there's kind of two critical audiences here. One is us, the normal day-to-day city, and then there's the public safety, which has all kinds of cybersecurity concerns, connections with the state and federal agencies, and specialized software and servers and data requirements. So there's the police and fire and public safety, and then there's the rest of us. So that's how we look at it. And yes, we are monitoring that, and we appreciate your comment.
Okay, just looking for direction, or are you looking for a?
Yes, we need to.
Motion to
Motion.
approve.
Motion to approve the agreement, because once you approve it, should you approve it, it would go to the county, and the county commission would have to approve it. And I'm hoping that they do that.
And this bid, again, also went out to, 14 plan people had plan holders for this, and we received 3 in response. And I listed, our code requires me to advertise it in the local newspaper, which is ridiculous, but it does. We put it on our website, but I also load them up, all our bid packages on Demand Star. That's worldwide. And it pushes out, you can select what type of vendor you want that to go to, and it pushes it out to them. So it's out there if they want to find it.
So, and just so for public record, the county originally did not respond, but I want to thank our mayor for bringing it to our attention, and to Mr. Whitson for further.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve fiscal year 22-23 IT services recommendation.
Second.
Sure.
I have no idea where I'm at. Let's start with Eric.
Yes, the motion.
Commissioner Sherman.
Yes.
Commissioner Mealy.
Yes.
Yes.
Vice Chair Phillips.
You're not Commissioner Mealy.
She doesn't even know who she is anymore.
I'm so used to going in the row. Yes.
Sorry about that.
Benny didn't think she knew where she was. You really.
Okay, staff reports, Drew.
We just have one. We've kind of gone back and forth. We have code enforcement coming up next week, and we have some parking citation appeals on there. And for a while, we were doing alternative. We were allowing community service, particularly specifically beach cleanups. I know we had an initial issue with that just because of the workload it was creating as the mayor received all these phone calls. I think we resolved that issue. And then I think the last time I brought it forward, you were okay moving back to it being a staff plan, but there were questions regarding even are we creating more work than necessary by doing this? And I think I have a thought in mind. I bring it up because the magistrate always asks me, can he go back to at least offering alternative remedies instead of making people pay? And what I was thinking, if you're okay with it, the city would agree to, because I'm prosecuting these cases, that we would not object to alternative remedies that involved a reduction of fine to 1/2 of whatever that fine would otherwise be, plus one beach cleanup. It would be their responsibility to both coordinate. They have to figure out when that beach cleanup is. They have to show up. They have to get their form signed. If they don't show up at the beach cleanup within 30 days of the hearing date, then they have to pay the rest of their fine within the following 30 days. But to have a monetary component as well as, you know, a reduction, so they get a benefit. The appellant gets a benefit in the sense that they do get a reduced penalty, but they don't get a zero penalty. Because I think that was the concern that I heard last time I brought it up here, is that we're just going to have a bunch of people say, well, I'll come and clean up the beach, and not, you know, feel any pinch for having parked somewhere, particularly when it's parking on the dunes. But I also heard comments here, and I know the magistrate feels strongly that offering this, especially when it's somebody who's parked on the dunes, offering them the opportunity to come out to the beach, experience the beach, hear from the people who care about the beach why parking on the dunes is so destructive, since there is a lot of ignorance. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way, but people don't know better. Some of these that are coming in from out of town, out of state, don't understand, and so there is a strong feeling from the magistrate that there is an educational component to the alternative remedy. So I've tried to split the baby a little bit, but I wanted to run it by you before, when I know he asks me next Wednesday if he can go back to offering it. If I have something that I can say we would not object to this, then I think he would be happy, and I think I've met the concerns that I've heard you all express.
I like it, yeah.
Okay, then that's what I will do. I appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I had tonight.
You're welcome. City Manager?
Just have one quick item. Appreciate y'all approving the IT contract. I think that was a major step forward. We also are going to be recommending that we enter an MOU with the county for the GIS services. And so I feel like that we should also, if we have one for the IT, then we need to also have one for the GIS services, because the new app would be tied to GIS, and we want to make sure everything is formalized in a written way. So I've drafted that MOU, and it's in circulation, and so that'll be coming back at a future agenda as well. So I just thought I would mention that.
Thank you. My favorite chiefs. Oh, there's just one there. What happened to the other one? My favorite chief.
You get to be the favorite. My other favorite.
Yeah, my other favorite. No comments, Bobby? No comments. Okay, thank you. Penny?
I do. I copied you on an email from Adam Mingle over at the county, in the planning department. And he took the interlocal for emergency medical services over to the city of Palm Coast. They had some minor changes. I think I might have given you copies of it, of just the email, which had the changes in it. I sent you electronically the entire agreement with markup, but I didn't print it out. And the changes are minor, and he wanted to know if you wanted to see this again, or if you were still okay with it to proceed with these minor changes Palm Coast recommended.
I'm okay with it.
I'm good with it.
Good, I'm good.
Good?
Good.
Perfect, thank you. That's all I have, thank you very much. One last thing, sorry. I'm getting ready to go on vacation, and you will have, I'll be back for the September 8th meeting, never mind. I'll be back.
Okay, good.
I was going to say, I was going to make a motion to deny that.
Have a lovely vacation. Mayor, you're up.
Okay, I just have a couple little things. Number one, we will not be having a beach cleanup the first Saturday of the month. That's actually September 3rd. Reason being, we are participating in the International Beach Cleanup, which is September 17th. So everyone come out September 17th for that. There's a little bit more legwork that's involved. We actually count everything. We send the data off, and it allows us to have a good understanding of what our trash is on the beach. Then next, I have just wanted to make everyone aware of our great neighbors in Beverly Beach. I attended the mayor's meeting this week, and Beverly Beach, the city of Flagler Beach provides sanitation at a cost to the residents of Beverly Beach. And Beverly Beach wanted to thank our sanitation department that they treated them to lunch. And I thought that was really cool and nice.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
They're a better neighbor than sometimes we are. And then just a last one. Debbie, I thought you did a great job on the meeting today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
That's it?
Thank you. Commissioner Sherman?
So I'll try to keep my comments brief. I met with some residents and Karen about some, potentially looking to make our city as safer for pedestrians. So we talked a little bit more about TPO conversations. We're actually going to try to meet with the interim director of the TPO this coming month to start trying to figure out where the FDOT's minds are at. Are they more interested in moving traffic or protecting pedestrians, and seeing what we can do again to safeguard our pedestrians around the CRA district and just around the town. I know we're moving in those directions on State Road 100, A1A, but maybe looking at, again, getting some of our other crosswalks over here by Sunbros and some other areas that we noticed that could be some potential hazards for pedestrians. And again, just trying to make the community more walkable and, just trying to find more ways to do that. So also be attending the TPO meeting on Wednesday. I think there's some items on the agenda that can, I think, have some concerns with us. I don't know if you had a chance to take a peek at that or not. No. So I'll be hopefully giving you guys a brief on that.
Just a question for Commissioner Sherman. I believe this area for TPO has now hit #1 in per capita pedestrian deaths.
I believe so, yes.
But
Yeah.
Daytona has, yeah.
Yeah, so I know that, it was my very first TPO meeting. It was unfortunately when that young lady got hit over there by Gamble Rogers. So, I mean, that was like the first thing I had to bring up to them was, we've got some major issues on A1A and, so hopefully we can find some additional ways to.
Well, there's a lot of additional funding that unfortunately comes with that.
Yeah.
That I don't know the process of taking advantage of that, but that would probably be something to pursue.
Yeah. We've actually been in conversation with the MPO and all the staff and the county. It's been a good process. And the last 5 years, counting Volusia County, we're well over 600 deaths, pedestrian deaths, in the last 5 years. And so the question was, should the county, which is close to 100 of those deaths, go on its own for that pot of funding, or would we be better off combining with the larger MPO, even though we'd have to split the funds out amongst more jurisdictions? And so the MPO staff has taken the lead working with the county on that, and I think we're going to come to a good place. And there's a deadline for submitting the grant, and I think we're all over it, and it's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's the sense that I've got, was that the bigger is better with this one, that they would like, that's kind of the sense I've kind of got after sitting down with this group that's, really passionate about pedestrian safety. So I think that's, kind of echo what Mr. Whitson was saying. I think that's I guess what FDOT is looking at, to secure some funding is bigger is better. Look at the whole county, look at our neighboring municipalities as well, and then kind of divvy up that money. My last point here is, I'm not going to beat up the League of Cities thing that the conference we just went to, but I think something I had a conversation with Mr. Whitson, and I was going to bring it up tonight, is I just wanted to see what your guys' thoughts were of potentially putting something together, having some sort of workshop annually, after playing this after the election season with the county, but basically have a annual elected officials conference, maybe with everybody come to the table. We bring our ideas, because what we all gathered at the League of Cities was that, being good neighbors with your larger getting projects together as a big group, we might be able to get some things a lot more accomplished. So I was wondering what your guys' thoughts were, if we might have, start having those conversations. I get, with your permission, I can start maybe reaching out, or have Mr. Chairman, ask Chairman Bryan to start that. But I thought it might be worthwhile to have us all come to the table, because I said to Mr. Whitson when we met on Monday, it was rather interesting. I had to meet a councilman from Palm Coast in Hollywood, Florida, versus having a conversation with them maybe. And, again, having us all together and in one place, and, maybe hopefully coming together with some things that, we need as a community here, and what's better for the county. Because I look at I look what just happened in Volusia County at my place of work. We got a $25 million, our governor gave the university $25 million that was matched by a donator, someone that donated $25 million, and we're getting a huge, another addition to our research and development center. It's gonna bring big paying jobs to the area, and, why not Flagler County and, see what we can, hey, a win for Palm Coast or Bunnell is a win for us with, bringing in some high paying jobs to the area. So just a thought.
Would you look to have commissioners, mayors, county administrators, a little bit of everything?
That was kind of what Mr. Whitson and I's thoughts were to bring everybody to the table, maybe, give Mr. Whitson direction and have him and maybe get with his fellow city managers throughout the municipalities and, once a year, just have maybe once a year conference just to throw that out there. Just a thought. I don't know if you guys are like, no, I don't think it's worth it. That's fine too. I just wanted to throw that out there while we're all in here.
If somebody's willing and got the time to put it together,
That's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea, but it's going to take a lot of work to put it together properly, to be productive.
I like it. The managers meet monthly anyway, and we talk to each other, and we're kind of moving, especially on the legislative front. We want to kind of speak with a common voice as much as we can. So I think that it's a good idea. It's timely. Many local areas have local leagues, right?
Yeah, I was whispering over here to Williams, they don't have a local league because everywhere else I work, there is a local league, and I guess there is the mayor's conference, but there's like incorporate a local league and both the legislative efforts, but also what you all do kind of casually already is, as you talk to other elected officials, what's coming downstream, upstream, left to right, what's moving through the county. But when you have, and often they're quarterly is how often those groups get together. They all get together quarterly, and that's what those meetings are about, is what are you dealing with? What can we crib off of you, or what can you crib off of us to make all of our lives a little bit easier? We do the same thing as attorneys. So
the
I think it's a great idea.
group started this, what I'm thinking now, it's coming back. But the mayor's group didn't start as a mayor's group. It started as let's all get together, because I used to go, when they would be, Oh, I can still go, I know. Yeah, it was made clear to me not to, not in so many words, but it used to be the commissioners or council people from each of the cities, and then somehow it evolved into the mayor's group. We do belong to a regional league from the League of Cities, the Northeast Florida League of Cities, but we don't have a lot in common with a lot of them, and some of the meetings are so far away that...
Yeah, we're part of the Northeast Florida.
Local league, I would think Flagler County, maybe Flagler, Volusia, but that's when I'm saying local league, I mean in really local, regional, or not regional, but local.
I would say William can suggest it when he meets with the other city managers, and then I can suggest it when we meet with the mayors.
Yeah.
We just met Wednesday, so it will be quarterly that we meet, and I'm sure they'll be open to it. There's always a lot of, everyone shares what's going on within their cities.
No, I think it's a good idea, again, as long as...
Yeah, so I think maybe if we shot for the summit, like one time, and then see what happened out of that.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Mealy?
You were done, okay. Conference, I thought the conference was the best one they've had in a long time. Learned a lot, took a lot of notes, picked up a lot of stuff, and I think for anyone where it was their first one, I think it was probably good. Went to the FB3 meeting. That was also well outlined and well done. We had the fire pension board. We're still in the positive, but it's getting less and less. Anyone who owns any stock knows what the stock market's doing, so. But the people who are running the pension don't have any fears at this point, so we're still okay. And the museum is having their fundraiser coming up October 6th. Make sure you get your ticket. Museum Moon Dance, October 6th at the Beachfront Grill. That's it.
Commissioner Cooley?
That's it.
Sorry. I could get more detailed if you want.
Nope, we're good. Okay, I have a homework assignment for everybody in this room and everyone that is watching this stream. I need every single person, and y'all know very well the folks that this applies to. Y'all got 10 people you know that are always talking and complaining about politics, right? You make sure they go out and vote.
Oh, yeah.
Get them out voting. And you tell them, number one, you say, I want to check and make sure you did it. I want to see your sticker, because everybody gets a sticker. And then if they don't have a sticker, they're officially not allowed to complain until the next election. But it is so important. So
what about the people who vote by mail?
They're already done. They're already done. I'm talking about the ones that haven't voted.
Sticker to prove it.
Oh yeah, that's true. We don't trust them anyways. That's made the news. The thing is primaries. This is an odd primary. There are some open primaries. There's some closed primaries. It's very confusing. A lot of folks don't know that they even can vote when they actually can. There's primaries that are open that folks might not understand what that means. And the people who are hearing me and y'all in this room are the absolute pinnacle of the most engaged citizens that we have. But that's not always, that's a very small percentage of folks. We need to get more people voting. Far too few people decide too many big things. So that's the homework assignment for everybody. Y'all can collect stickers and bring them all back. That's all I got.
To add on that, early voting in the city, we do have an early voting location in Seth Methodist Church on South Daytona Avenue. Early voting is available until August 20th. The hours are 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. If you have any questions or concerns or want to know your polling location or if you can vote in this primary, call the Supervisor of Elections at 313-4170.
Thank you, Penny.
Thank you very much. I have a few things. I received a notification from somebody that was parked at the Golden Lion parking lot. They claim they were not inebriated, and they left the Golden Lion and they fell when they were walking onto our parking lot. So I've asked Mr. Whitson to see about leveling, but the reason I'm bringing this up is lighting. It is so dark.
It is.
It is so dark. So I don't know if there's something we can do in the way of lighting at our public parking lots.
Isn't that in the CRA?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's,
Yeah, she's okay.
But it's also turtle season.
Yeah, because they got CRA funding.
But I don't
so we
want
might be able to address that. The reason I'm asking, we might be
Yeah,
able to address
they have
it
that
way.
turtle lighting.
Which would be fine, but there's no
Yeah,
lighting
and I
at
know
all.
it's
And
very-
the person,
it is
there was a
very-
lip of sand where it hadn't been leveled, and she fell flat on her face. She was
Oh,
lucky
boy.
she didn't get hurt. And it was
She's
pitch
lucky it
black.
happened on sand.
Very
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
Very true. Very true. Second thing is super excited to talk about Pal Parker's ribbon cutting. We've got it scheduled for October the 5th with a rain date of October the 6th. I wanted to poll you guys to see, would you like to do the ribbon cutting in the afternoon, early evening, morning? Kind of what are your thoughts?
What day of the week was that?
October 5th.
That's a Wednesday, highly preferably evening.
Okay. If we do the rain date on the 6th, that's when we have moon dance. So if we shoot for the 5th, what would you say can you do 4 p.m.?
4 is not evening.
We have a
4? What do we
women's
have?
club meeting that day.
What do we have?
Women's club board meeting.
Oh,
It
geez.
might start getting dark.
Yeah, I don't know.
Time change. It's not going to be light. Well, October. It'll still be light. It'll
Yeah.
just be on the cusp of it.
Okay, so should we, 5? 5, okay? Okay,
5 o'clock.
okay.
Both of them at 5 for the rain date and the regular?
What time?
Rain date's tough for me because I'm involved with moon dance and I can't
Yeah,
remember when
moon
it
dance
starts.
starts at 5:30.
Well, it better not rain.
But I could just, no rain, just,
The good news is you'll already be dressed up.
very true, very true. Let's stick with 5 p.m. For both. I can always be late to moon dance if I have to be. So thank you. So Mr. Whitson's talking to the fined people. We're going to have the unofficial committee that I worked with for a year. They're going to be there as well. One of the ladies is going to make cookies. We're going to have water, and then we're going to have an official ribbon cutting.
Great.
Yeah. At the League of Cities, some of us spoke to a woman who works for a company that does parking solutions, amongst other things. She's actually working with Delray Beach right now regarding their parking solutions. So I'm going to have her speak via Zoom at one of our upcoming commission meetings just to see what's in the market now. It's been a while since we've talked parking, so I thought, maybe she's got some good ideas. And then 2 things for Mr. Whitson, Finance Director, any updates on where we're at with that?
Yeah, the headhunter and I spoke at the Florida League meeting, and Doug and I are supposed to check in next week. And at the time we spoke last week, I think he had 10. So we're hoping that he gathers a few more.
That's great.
And then we can go through the list and see.
Okay, sounds good. And then my last question is, I think it was a couple of commission meetings ago, I asked for a maintenance schedule. Because I also have been seeing some areas of the city that are not being mowed, are kind of in disrepair a little bit, and I know we're understaffed, but I'd still like to see a maintenance schedule.
Didn't we email that out?
Yes, there was a part.
Oh.
Well, there was a part. Yeah, it did cover everything.
Yeah. Oh, I apologize. Yeah. Oh, I apologize. I missed that.
And if it's not detailed enough, let me know.
Okay.
But Bill and Janelle put that together and put
I
it out.
apologize. I missed that one then. Okay.
If, we need more details.
It's so many emails, it's
I know.
not
Yeah,
hard.
sorry.
Okay, I'll take a look at that tomorrow.
All right.
Thank you. That's all I have. Chief Downey? Is there public comment on any of this? In a minute. Chief Downey, do you have anything for us? Okay, thank you. So good commission comments. Now I'm going to open it up to the public regarding items not on the agenda. Once again, you're limited to 3 minutes. Please state your name and address.
1839 Oak Place. This is really simple, and I just need a simple answer to it. Why in the world does that building department and code department still have flapping Tyvek in the breeze? Nothing happens. It looks awful. It really looks awful. What's happening there? Why is nothing happening there? Why isn't anybody talking about what isn't happening there?
I'm sorry, building department and what was it second?
Well, it's the code department, building department when you go in.
WIC line.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay.
I mean, it's been like that a long time. Did we just abandon it? Has it just been forgotten? What's going on there? Is there a plan? What is the plan?
I don't know what you're talking about.
So at the front of the WIC line center?
Talking about the vestibule?
Well, they were supposed to redo the stairs and...
It's been a long,
Yeah,
long
it was
time.
I know that, but they made the repair, and then now we've gotten the grant. They just approved the grant, and we're going to go forward with the improvements. So we were waiting on the grant.
Now, is there, I guess, she said it's flapping in the wind or something. Is there anything temporary we need to do to?
It just looks really tacky. When I say it's tacky, it's just a bit, and wasn't this like approved and paid for before it was ever even started for repair? Wasn't it budgeted? And why are we backing up and waiting on a grant for it? Did they just start and then do the wrap and everything and then just abandon it and left it at that? It just looks bad.
And the stairway was supposed to be reconfigured.
Yeah,
And I mean, even as a homeowner, if I get a permit or something, I have a designated time to do that project. And if I don't do that project in a designated time, then I have a fine or I have a problem with the city because I didn't get it done. There are limitations to what can be done with that permit. So I'm just wondering why this has been, I don't even know, how long has it been? More than a year. I know it's like maybe a year and a half. It's been a long, long time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
(431839 Oak Place). About 2 meetings ago, I don't remember the date, there was a lady and a gentleman that spoke to y'all about I think it was probably a city management program that the county was using as well. And I don't know how this references or not to item number 16, but in that discussion, it talked about there was a place for the public to ask questions of the city, they would be tracked, and there'd be a certain amount of time for the city to respond. This has been one of my pet peeves for a very, very, very long time. I've got issues out there in writing and documented that have been out there for years through 3 transitions of city managers. That's unacceptable. Some of these issues are environmental, they're public safety, they're infrastructure, they're time sensitive, they're cost sensitive, and it's not getting done. Now, I don't do this because I like it. I do this because I feel I have to. I bring these things to the city's attention that need attention, and they get ignored. I don't know what else to do about it. As most of you probably know, I've been to the county to try and get help with these things. I've talked to the governor's office. I've gone many different routes because I can't seem to get it done here. I can't get answers to simple questions. Why do you suppose that is? I'll tell you, because you don't like me. I ask these hard questions that people don't want to answer. This has to stop. I want to know how y'all are going to help me get these answers to these questions that affect people, the environment, infrastructure, and everything else in between. So please, I'm asking for your help. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, thank you. Mr. Strite, you should never be ignored, ever. And you're saying for years and years and years, people have not responded to you. I'm not aware of anything, whether you're sending them in emails or phone calls or whatever you're doing. Yeah, please. Well,
Don't get it.
Well, I think the question is more designed on the timeline for the tracker thing.
yeah, so cover it, yeah.
That was the GIS app. That was the item that I said we were going to, put the MOU together for. We're working on that now. It's almost finished. We're in the process of training. The software is set, and we will launch it when we feel comfortable that we can adequately respond to any questions that come in. And I'm projecting late September, maybe early October for the launch. Right now, we're planning on the possibility of a State of the City address in mid-October. So we want to get it out before then. And we're working on it, and hopefully that will improve the response and the communications. Again, we've answered multiple emails from Mr. Strike, but at the end of the day, we're in the business of communication and public service, and we're going to continue to do the best we can, and this new tool should help us do even more.
Okay, but to Mr. Strite's point, he appears to have some outstanding questions. So should he
What if he just resubmits them and just copies us so we at least know what they are?
submit, or, what is your recommendation?
I have so many emails and so many responses back to them. If you want to see them all, I'll be happy to share them with him. It's not that he's not getting answers. He may not like the answers we begin to him, but we are answering him as best we can. Now, maybe we have his expectation versus what we can do. Let's just take the situation we had tonight. He wants something done one way. There's another way that we've delivered that service. It's that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, we're trying our best to communicate. I know, for example, Chief Downey is a prime example. For years, he has been going back and forth and answering questions. And so I've tried, my staff has tried. If we added up all the staff hours involved in going back and forth, you'd be shocked at the amount of and level of effort. We are doing all we can do, and still Mr. Strite seems to be unhappy. I'm sorry. We're doing what we can, and there are literally hundreds of emails that we could share with you if you want to see them all.
Okay, Mr. Strata, I'm sorry, you can't come back up. So, anybody else like to come up and talk? Okay, well, this was an excellent meeting. Can I have a?
You did a great job.
Thank you. And could I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
The number of emails that I sent through that don't get answered.